I better hit record. Okay. I'll just do a quick little intro and we'll get right into it. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate you doing this. All right. Three, two, one. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to A Hoops Journey, episode 142. If for some reason you are still rocking with us, we appreciate you. Don't forget to like and subscribe, share, let people know about these journeys. We have who some might say a triple OG on the show today. It's going to be a battle for myself as a former Langara Falcon to chop it up with the Humber Hawk, but that's okay. We can move through. We had Coach Cates on, and it's all love. But this gentleman, I think, would probably be described as someone who is a jack of all trades. Coming off, still slowly peeling off the band-aid of the Olympics, the team manager for Canada basketball on the men's side. Um, Researching on him, obviously deeply connected in Humber College, listed as one of the top 50. They've just had a 50th anniversary thing, and he is one of the most influential. So when you think of the word influential, that means impacting people's lives. And I think when you're involved as a facilities and athletics manager, there's many hats he's wearing on that beautiful bald head. Um, and connecting with many different people. And I think when you have the word influential, it says a lot. And so this guy's been highly recommended many times, mostly from Scott Morrison. So we'll give him a quick shout out because he's going to annoy us if we don't.
Yeah,
But we have none other than Mr. James DePoe with us. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Appreciate the kind words in the intro. It's pretty cool. Yeah, doing well. Sitting in my office here at Humber College.
And so as things are starting to ramp up at Humber, obviously a new school year, athletes are rolling in, depending on what sport they're probably already training already. Um, and you're off to the cottage after this, which is nice. But what's your day to day since getting back from the Olympics? How does that look for you? Did you get some time to yourself, or were you right back in the mix?
Well, I did get some time to myself. Not that I wanted it. So obviously, with the result ending our Olympic journey ending earlier than expected, I was home a few days earlier than I had
Mhm.
expected to be. So I did have. I think I came home on the Friday, the 9th. I had that weekend to really a lot of stuff coming out of me. I could barely stay awake. I was falling asleep all weekend and just getting the stress starts to come out of you after you're kind of going at such a high level for 45 days straight or whatever it was. Um, and then I was back at Humber on Tuesday and just making sure I was touching base with all our staff and everything that's been going on. I mean, I was in touch while I was away. I managed my email because I don't like going into the big
Yeah.
bulk of load
Yeah,
of
the
email.
list.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So no, it was just touching base with everybody, seeing what's going on and what we need to do, and yeah, but then really focused on spending time with my wife and son and my family, and so now we're 2 weeks. 2 weeks. I've been back for 2 weeks, and I went to the cottage on the weekend, which was great. So, like you said, I'm definitely gonna head. I'm working from home this week. I'm gonna do some back and forth to come in for some meetings, but it
Mhm.
took me about a week to get over the jet lag, and I feel I got some sickness out of the way.
Yep.
My body finally gave in, and now I'm good to go. So
Yeah, it's funny actually. About 40 minutes ago, I just went to the store and I grabbed my emergency gummies because I got teaching, work starting up. So
yeah.
it's full on snot season. So getting ready for
Mm,
teaching. But let's get right into that kind of part of it a little bit, man. I think,
okay.
your role just being like a manager, I think some people might assume like, oh, you're just sort of on the outside and, you're making sure everybody's got their gear. But there's like an emotional and personal investment with these guys. You have grown with them through all these years, and then to finally make it to the Olympics, um, and to just you've touched on it a little bit, but just sort of from your perspective, and obviously the team's been coming up short. Um, how hard has it been the last couple of weeks, and what were the emotions like after the loss to France? I mean, obviously not great, but have you had time to also reflect on it all and realize, or is it still sort of that uh, kind of feeling, if what I'm saying makes sense?
Yeah, it's there. You cover the spectrum. I've covered the spectrum over the last couple of weeks.
It's kind of like
I think
grieving,
each.
right?
Yep.
The
It
emotions,
honestly
yeah.
is,
Mhm.
each passing day, there's, like I said, 45 days, and not just 45 days. It's going back a long time for so many of us, and so, uh, but we think obviously we're on a good path, and we've achieved so much in the last few years, and but so with each passing day, there's little moments. I'll remember something from the 45 days, and then you go back a little further, and then I get myself off of August 6th,
Mm,
and I'll remember a dinner, and I'll remember, some of the songs I played in practice one day that made people laugh, and things like that, or just any of the stuff that we do hanging out as a group, and going to Vimy Ridge, incredible
yeah.
day. And so I just, I started to think about all those things now. People ask me to describe it because, I mean, everybody I see right now, it's the first thing they ask me,
Mm,
um,
so fun,
because
hey?
they haven't seen me since I left and since it happened. So I'm mentally prepared for that. And honestly, the only way I could describe it, it felt like getting in a car accident. It
Mm,
felt like you're going along, and yeah, there's traffic and there's bumps in the road, but you're going along and you're making it through, and all of a sudden, bam! And it physically, I think it hit a lot of us, right? Like I said, I got sick after this. I was sore when I got home.
mm,
I don't know how else to describe it. It felt like a car accident, and then you're trying to heal. And so part of that healing is staying connected to everybody, still talking to the guys, and lucky for me, with the relationship here at Humber, a number of the guys have come to, they're still in the GTA. They're coming to train. I've seen a bunch of them.
mm,
They're hitting me up for gym time. We do National Training Center skill work at our Lakeshore campus, so that also helps. I see the guys. I see that they're doing okay. Yeah, there was a lot of emotion in the room that day. There's
mm,
some wide eyes of, crap, we maybe missed an opportunity here,
mhm,
because it was a pretty crazy environment, right? We got punched in the face, and I've been at a lot of places and a lot of games, and that crowd was it was a it was rabid, and they were in a frenzy off that 19-5 start, right? And then they never came down. So the energy was pretty crazy in there, and that got into us, and you could see it in the locker room post game that everybody was impacted, and there's a lot of questions, and now we start that process. I know Michael and Rowan are definitely, and Jordy are on top of that stuff. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
just
man,
find a
and
way, just find a way to move on.
for sure, and I think from a fan, a big hoop head perspective, is like I refuse to go through this like a Leafs fan or lame ass Canucks fan. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna be pointing fingers and angry. I'm still proud of where we're at. I'm proud that we're on
Yeah,
the map. I'm proud of
yeah,
the way our guys play. We've got awesome dudes that represent the country really well. That have minimal ego, it seems, from an outside
yeah,
perspective, and guys that have bought in and were willing to put their NBA careers on the line and go for it for us, right? And then,
yeah.
it's also you've been around sport long enough too. It's like that it doesn't make it better, but when you see France make it to the final, you're like, you know what I mean? Like maybe,
I think,
we saw the draw and we're like, hey, good draw, right? And then it's like
yeah,
you see the first 4 minutes of the game and I'm like, hot damn, this is a whole
yeah,
nother, like so many
yeah.
things.
Yeah, the ebb and flow of sports coverage, right? I think leading into the Olympic season and prep, France was up there. And oh well, then they went 0-4, 0-5 in their
Yeah.
preparation games. Everybody's like, see, they're not a good team.
Mm,
This is a good team playing at home. They've had a ton of development and done well at age group levels, just like we have. They've
mhm.
come up, and they're producing high level talent, right? So we knew. Yeah, I mean, the draw's the draw. You get to the Olympic quarterfinals, and it's sure, if we had a group that wasn't the group of death, and maybe our point differential could have been inflated, then we end up in the top two, and you play one of those third place teams.
Yeah,
But it was what it was, right?
for sure.
We knew what we were in for. They're obviously a good team. So
Yeah.
some of the there was one article somebody wrote about, no, we got lucky with the draw. It's like there's no luck in the draw. It's the quarterfinals of the Olympics, and you're playing the home team in their capital. It's
Yeah.
tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Two questions before we jump into you as like a 10-year-old.
Oh,
One, they let you on aux, huh?
yeah, it's big time. That's me. It's been me for, and so
What,
it's
so
funny
what's
how
the
this is
what's the goat? That's pressure, man. Being the DJ is not easy. It
the
doesn't matter if it's practice, a shoot around, a
yeah,
social event. People
yeah,
look
yeah,
at you,
yeah.
right? You've got to hit
No,
add to queue.
I have I have my ebbs and flows too.
Okay.
Like some days I know I'm super confident. I just pull it up and I go. I've always been a music guy. I was like that teenager that was like skipping school to go downtown Toronto and buy the mixtape and like all that stuff. I was like I used to pride myself on my collection. I had like 30,000 songs on my iTunes, which was like labor of like putting the CD in and uploading it and all that stuff. So like
Yeah.
I actually pride myself on my spectrum of music. And
Respect it.
so
Can't wait for the end then.
this luck and the circumstance kind of intersects and in the last what 6 or 7 years there's this big wave of like playing music in practice with basketball,
Mhm.
and there I am sitting at the table. I feel a jack of all trades. I'm probably not as skilled as an actual DJ, but like I'm running the clock, the shot clock, the score. I've got the practice plan in front of me. I got my iPad there. My iPad is connected to the Bluetooth, and I'm using Spotify. Sometimes I pause it from my watch. I'm doing all that stuff. So, but yeah, you always gotta. I always read the vibes, and every once in a while, the guys will make their requests. And
Yep.
this year, for the first time, we did a like I'll share a Spotify playlist with them and tell them to upload some stuff, or we ask them on their intake questionnaire if there's any artists they want to hear. And then
Yeah.
like Jordy's good too. Jordy comes over and he'll get on and he'll put a bunch of stuff on every once in a while too. So we go
So
all
mix it
over.
up.
We change it up. Yeah, yeah, it's awesome.
Nice. Awesome. Okay, and then second question, have you taken a moment to take take the result out of the way? You're an Olympian, man. How's that feel? And what if you could describe briefly just what the Olympic experience was like for you personally? What would you say to people who have also probably asked? But we've had lots of former Olympians on the show, but you are fresh off of it, like literally weeks ago. So tell us what that feels like.
It's incredible. It's a tremendous source of pride. It more so. I think that the group having a group of people that like you said, I grew up with a lot of these guys, but also with our staff. I've had such a great relationship with them for so many years, and
Hmm.
we just been grinding and putting in the work and coming back and coming to and getting through summers of heartbreak, and now coming through the no format with going through windows and leaving our families. And I've missed tons of stuff. I've missed stags and weddings and family birthdays and all that stuff. And
Hmm.
everybody's been super supportive, so you carry all of that. I carry all of that with me, and I'm incredibly proud. I think there was I saw it on LinkedIn. There was a post of one of the athletes or former athletes articulated just that the results oriented focus. Everybody's always talking about the medals, and then she broke down the percentage of people that actually in human existence that actually get to be there. And her breakdown was from an athlete perspective, but obviously comparable percentage of staff or support staff that actually get to do this in their lives.
Hmm.
Um, and I feel incredibly proud that yeah, it's impactful that I was able to do it with who I was able to do it with, all the people that I share so many good friendships and memories with. So yeah, and the experience itself, it's overwhelming. I'm still you still it's too much to process.
Yeah.
But I wear one of my main hats is always logistics and operations, and it's respectfully, it's probably one of the worst run events in the world because of the sheer magnitude of it. Right?
Sure.
There's just so many things that fall through the cracks, and I feel for the volunteers. They never have an answer to any question, and when you seek out information, by the time somebody gets that information to you, somebody back where they came from is creating something new. And like so systems were always changing, and so it was incredibly frustrating, but also um I think at my point of life experience, I was able to roll with it better than I would have been when I was younger and
Sure.
OCD, and you have to
Mhm.
be more fluid. It's a very fluid environment. And then that stuff aside, just we had our Lille experience, which was just basketball in the Lille village, right? So it felt kind of like summer camp,
Sure.
and you see just basketball athletes everywhere, and everybody knows each other, and they're all, hey, how you doing, I play with you at this team and that team, whatever. But then when we moved to Paris, and then we had access to the main village, that was pretty awesome. Like
Yeah.
just to walk into the Olympic village, and you just get hit with the wave of everybody in their respective countries gear, and you're like, these are the best athletes on the planet all in
Mhm.
one place. It's so cool. So
Yeah.
cool.
Love it, man.
So
Great summary. And I think it's cool too. Like your son's 5, maybe sort of gets, oh, dad's at the Olympics, but when he's 9, when he's 13, when he's 17, who knows if you're gonna, but like
yeah,
every time you flick on the Olympics, he'd be like, Dad was at that. You know what I mean? That's
yeah,
dope. That's really,
yeah,
really cool. Yeah.
yeah, for
All right,
sure.
well, let's chop it up, man. Let's get into it. Obviously, this is going to be an awesome episode already. Um, Take us back in time. Little JD running around,
Little
born and
JD.
raised, and why were sports a thing for you when you were younger, and what was it all about?
So yeah, so I grew up in west end of Toronto. I guess it's Corso Italia, the west end of Toronto, like Dufferin and St. Clair. So heavy Western European immigrant population with Italians and Portuguese. So me growing up, it was all soccer, and it was completely
Hmm.
unstructured and unorganized. And I lived across the street from my grade school. So I was like the first one there every day. I would get up, eat my breakfast, run out the door, and I'm there. And everybody's coming. We're playing soccer before school, recess, lunch, recess, after school. Um, but yeah, it was totally unstructured sport for me for all of my grade school life. I didn't play any organized sport.
Hmm.
Um, and so I think that was a good thing. Obviously you're figuring stuff out, you're using your imagination and all that stuff. And we had to make it work. Our schoolyard had no grass. We were playing soccer on concrete, right? The
Oh,
whole
not even
whole like
gravel.
not even gravel. It was concrete. And they were, and you're trying to, like, you end up slide tackling. You got a full raspberry, strawberry, whatever, and all that fun stuff. And
So,
the only other
how do a bunch of Italians and Portuguese not flop all the time on the concrete? How do what?
they were when the kids are young, they don't do that. Come on, they don't do that. And you don't try to feign the referees until you're older.
Yeah, it's true. You get stuck in because you want to win the
Yeah,
playground match. That's fair.
exactly.
That's fair.
Yeah. And so the other than the soccer, the only thing we did was we called it wall ball. I think some people call it box ball, right? We played you just chalk the wall, and anything on the ground is a single, one hop the wall double, on the fly triple, and over home run. And so we could do that with you had three people, a batter, a pitcher, and a fielder. And that that sort of spawned my first love, which is still baseball, which
Hmm.
is crazy. But yeah, the first organized thing I ever did was when the summer before grade 7, my mom and dad put me in U of T summer sports camp. So I did tennis in the mornings and baseball in the afternoon. And
So, are you
and then
Blue
when it,
Jays?
I'm a Jays fan.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'll support the Toronto teams
Yep.
and everything. And so yeah, I was always a Jays fan, Raptors fan, and so yeah, I was going. I met my best friend at that U of T sports camp. Still to this day, I stood at his wedding. Right, I was his best man, and we met at U of T sports camp. And so then I ended up getting into Little League at High Park. So I don't know if you're familiar. High Park
Yep.
Baseball is a pretty good organization. They're one of the organizations that's gone to the Little League World Series a number of times. I didn't play for the rep team, which, looking back, obviously silly, but I'm pretty much the same size now that I was when I was 12. I was like,
Damn.
I've only grown like an inch, so I was like the monster back then,
Yeah.
which is ridiculous.
You're the kid. They're
And
like, Can we get his ID? Like, how old is this kid?
yes,
Like,
when
yeah,
I
yeah,
showed up,
yeah.
when I showed up at my little league tryouts, I mean, I don't know if my dad's telling the truth, but he said, because I had never played, and so all of a sudden I show up at this High Park Little League tryout as a 5'10", 5'9", 12-year-old or whatever I was, and all the coaches are like, who the heck is this kid? So they were trying to recruit my dad because if my dad coaches the team, then I'm automatically on that team.
Right.
So, but I ended up being the first pick in the draft. There was an expansion team. Best thing that could have ever happened to me because the coach was wonderful.
Mm.
And we were 2-18 and I was 2-9 as a pitcher, but
Hey.
I had like the second best ERA in the league, but we were a disaster.
Yeah.
But this coach, no matter what, he taught me, how to pitch properly. He taught me the right mechanics. So that was like we all have those people in our lives, those coaches that you have where you remember them for whatever reason. I just remember that he was as a what you should be doing in little league, teaching kids how to have fun and how to play the game properly, right? So
Yeah.
he instilled that in. He was one of the people that instilled that in me. Carl Krapika, he was a really good coach, and but yeah, and then I ended up. I was at Winona, which is a middle school in downtown Toronto at Oakwood and St. Clair. It's one of the feeder schools into Oakwood.
Okay.
Um, and I had never played basketball other than just, a little bit here and there. And so obviously because of my height when I was in grade 8, all my buddies were trying out for the team. Like, you got to come try out for the team.
Hmm.
Sure, whatever. They
Sure.
dragged me into the tryout. I think I remember like a couple of rebounds, a couple blocks. I don't think I scored.
Mm.
I went home that day and I went to my brother Danny, one of my two older brothers, and I said, "How do you shoot a basketball?" And he just went, and he
Yeah.
said, "It's like elbow in, whatever." And I ended up picking that up right away, which, in my very limited athletic career, I was
Mm.
able to take things and put it into my body because I ended up being a pitcher was the best thing I ever did. And
Hmm.
I was able to take coach feedback and implement it into my mechanical stuff. So I was able to get the shot mechanics down and make the team in grade 8. I'm the starting center, which is hilarious. And we win the public school city title or whatever. I go 6 for 6 from the field and 2 for 2 from the line. And
Let's go.
that's the peak of my basketball career right there. but yeah, that was baseball was my number one. I was playing baseball in the summers, but that Winona basketball experience was fun, of course. And then my I end up going to Oakwood,
Hmm.
which of course is a well-known basketball school in Toronto. Has produced a number of good players, really really good program, and yeah, I end up at Oakwood in grade 9, and I make the Bantam basketball team. And the coach of the senior team, who was a very good coach, Terry Thompson, I think he saw something in that our Benham class. He came down to coach that team as well as the seniors. He was making
Mm.
an investment in the future, which did eventually pay off that with that group. But we my brothers had taken during that time. We're talking like 91, 92, 90. I went into grade 9. I think 93, 94 was my grade 9 year. So you think about Toronto basketball at that time, and my brothers both had gone to Oakwood. So like I idolized Greg Francis just from watching him. I wasn't a big basketball guy, but Greg was he's such a wonderful human being, right? And he was a stoic person. He played the game, how he played was
Hmm.
great to watch, and he was such a respectful person. I remember he signed my shoe when I was in grade 8 before I got to Oakwood in grade 9. Um,
Might as well have been MJ at that point, right?
yeah, no,
Yeah.
he was unbelievable. And so my brothers, like credit to my brothers. My oldest brother was on the Bantam team. He was the same age as Greg. They were both on the Bantam team together at Oakwood years earlier. But my brother would take me to all the games in Toronto.
Mm.
So that's really like pre-Raptors watching Toronto high school basketball was incredible with Rowan and Greg and like guys like a guy like Kenrick Hopkinson at Pearson, and you had guys like Wayne Dawkins, and then mid '90s like Wayne Smith at Bathurst, and Runnymede with like Damian Kane and Tyrone Smith. Like these were like serious
T-Bone.
teams, and yes,
I
like
played with
really, really,
T-Bone.
yeah, man. Like these guys were, and I loved watching them play. And I would be at Jarvis, all those tournaments at Jarvis, and like packed, right? The
Yeah.
weight room upstairs, people hanging off the rafters and everything to watch those games, and it was fun. And so when I got to grade 9 and I make the Bantam team, then I'm like it was fun to be in it. Like our Oakwood team was really good. We won the Bantam title, we beat Eastern. next year, grade 10, I was on the junior team. And then, so that group, Dean Walker was a year older than me. And Dean was big time, right? Like Dean could score, he could play. We had a really good team. And then my grade 11 year, we won the cities again. And there was like a junior citywide that the Toronto used to run. We lost, I think we lost a running meet in the semis. But we were pretty good, like to make it that far. But then obviously I went to the 1994. Like I'm just trying to think of things a part of my hoops journey. I went to the
Hmm.
'94 World Championships in Toronto, watching basketball,
Oh yeah. Yep.
which was super cool. Like Sean Kemp was my favorite player. I
Yeah.
remember I had the number 7 USA jersey, Sean Kemp for Dream Team 2. Went to a bunch of those games.
Was that at the Garden?
That I think they I know they played at Cops, and I think in Toronto the games
Yeah.
were at the Garden. Yeah.
Hmm. I mean,
Um,
man, you grew up in like the heyday, like the names that
yeah,
you
it
just listed
was
off is like endless, right?
well, yeah, and like I remember
What was it about? What was it about basketball that I mean, you mentioned many times baseball was your number one, and I love the touch on being a pitcher. I feel like baseball really taught me a bunch of things too about sort of thinking next play, thinking ahead. Like it's very,
oh
and
yeah.
probably also is reason to your OCD too, because it's a very,
Oh yeah.
you get very
Oh yeah.
superstitious playing ball. But
Yes.
what was it about going to those games? Was it because you had the big bros and you're like, I'm just going to tag along, or the
Just
energy in the gyms, or
yeah, yeah, that too. Just hanging out with my brothers, the energy, and this combination of all of it. And it was a really fun, exciting style of basketball that was happening in Toronto, right? And you could
Mhm.
see the skill level, and you could see how good all these guys were. Um, yeah, it was really, really exciting. And then and I was like decently athletic. Um, back then. And so, basketball was such a fun sport to play once I got into it. Once I got on that, Winona team, and I liked being on a team with, having 5 guys on the floor is very different from baseball, right? So I just like that
Yeah.
contrast. And yeah, it was really exciting. I remember, I think it was grade 9. I was in grade 9, and Oakwood would host a junior tournament. I don't know if you know Oakwood's gym, or
No.
anybody has ever talked about it on here. It's like a shoebox.
Okay.
When you inbound the ball and you cross half court, there's another line. So for over and back, you got to cross
Yeah.
half court, but then there's
The-
another line further back that becomes the backcourt line, and there's no corner threes because the 3 point line just
Too
runs
close.
into the sideline, right? And so you think about these. It's the same with it was similar at Eastern, right? And so you think
Yeah.
about this the type of teams and the style of play. And so we had two gyms back to back with the divider, and we hosted. I was in grade 9, and we hosted this junior tournament. And I remember we were on the one side, and you just heard like chaos on the other side.
Yeah.
And I go over, and it's Eastern, right, with Skinny and Jamal, and just unbelievable, right? Like just dominating everybody. So I missed having to play them, thankfully, but yeah, that's the heyday, right? Of that we know of Toronto basketball, like just incredible stuff happening, and then I leave it because of baseball. So I
Mm.
transfer after grade 11.
Okay.
We win that junior title. We lose that citywide semi, but and Oakwood was, those the phys ed teachers like Terry Thompson and Ernie McMillan were really good coaches, and they did a good job of, developing it like as a program. And so they had exit meetings after grade 11 with all the players and talk about what they wanted us to do in the summer, and play club ball and all that stuff. And I told them I'm leaving. Um, and I end up transferring to Humberside Collegiate, which is near High Park in Toronto, which was I'm playing High Park baseball. I'm playing High Park rep with all my buddies, and they're like, "You gotta come, you gotta come. We're gonna win the city title and da 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 and all that stuff." So I convinced my parents that I needed to transfer,
You guys
and
had
I
high
had
school
to.
baseball, huh?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Does
good.
that still exist?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. We
yeah.
never
We
had
still
it
have
out
high
here in
school. It's
BC. Yeah.
in the spring. We have high school baseball, and so
Nice. That's dope.
um, yeah, it was really really good to, all my friends convinced me to make the switch. So I get in front of the superintendent. I do the transfers. I'm out of district. I end up at, it was different rules back then, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so yeah, I didn't have to sit out. I transferred to Humber side, which ends up being, for there's reasons we'll get into down the road, just a great decision. But yeah, have a good school year, good season. We win the city title. I get the win. I get him the starting pitcher in the championship game. We get the dub. Um, and we lose in the provincial quarters to St. Mike's, who they were stacked. They were really, really good. But yeah, that's where, I never played club basketball. I just played high school basketball. So when I get to Humberside, they're like Division 2, right? They're not very good. But in my grade 12 year, we happen to have a pretty, for whatever reason, we have a talented group, and we have one guy in OAC. He ends up going to U of T. He's pretty darn good. This guy Nathan Hale, and in grade 11 is somebody who ends up becoming one of my best friends, Samson Downey, who ends up coming to Humber. He's part of my Humber story, and he plays for Humber. So I can't remember if it was grade. I think it was grade 12, and it was the next year. So we were pretty good that year. We got some confidence. So then we convinced our phys ed teachers for my when I was in grade 13, my OAC year. We're like, put us in the Division 1. We want to play
Mhm.
Eastern. We want to play Oakwood. We want to play Jarvis. We want to play all these guys. And you know what? We did okay. We took our 30s and 40s from the two big dogs,
Yeah. Yeah.
but then we finished like third or fourth in Toronto South, like Division 1, which was pretty good back then.
Sure.
Um, but then I got booted from our citywide quarterfinal. Some guy set a hard screen on my buddy Samson and like stepped over him and flexed. So
No,
I dealt with the guy a little bit, and so I
that
got
everybody's got a role.
why I'm like,
Yeah.
kid, hard screen fine, but don't
Yeah.
flex, don't flex on him, right?
Yeah.
So I ended up getting suspended. We had to play, and the kicker for me, our next opponent, Oakwood, and I had to
No
sit and
way.
watch. So my two backcourt mates had to play all 32 minutes or whatever it was, like the full, 8-minute quarters, and I'm sitting there watching. They're all playing my buddies, and there was no shot clock, so they stalled it out, and we only
Yeah.
lost by like 8,
Yeah.
and those guys were gassed, and it was, don't overreact when your buddy gets hit. Is the lesson I learned there. And then I had to sit out the first game of the baseball season because I had a 2-game suspension. But
Really?
bad temper. Yeah, I tossed. I like shoved the guy hard into the wall or whatever, and I got a
But they
2-game
carried it over to
suspension.
another sport?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
Carried it over to the next sport that I played, so I missed
Wow.
the opener of the baseball season. But yeah.
That's
And
wild.
anyway, so
Yeah.
so yeah,
Anyways.
yeah. I don't know how I was like all the things that you're tracking my suspension from one sport. I should have signed up for like volleyball and just sat out one
Yeah.
volleyball game so I could not miss a baseball game. And now
Yeah.
that I
Yeah.
think about it, I should have done. My phys ed teacher should have been all over that. But
100%. Yeah.
anyways, but yeah, so I never played club ball. But my high school basketball was tons of fun, right? Like I loved playing and with those guys, and we had
Hmm.
so much fun. And it was the baseball. I ended up being a pretty decent baseball player when I was at High Park, and so obviously the Raptors had now come in. I went to that draft at Skydome, which is hilarious. I remember that cavernous building, watching the draft, booing the Stoudemire pick and all that
Yeah.
nonsense, and
Yeah.
then watching games there. Um, but yeah, that obviously the Raptors helped with fostering the love for the game,
Hmm.
and I was lucky enough, like some of the companies my mom was working for, we were getting season tickets, so I was getting to go to. Not people didn't. There was that initial spike of excitement, and then there was a lull because the team was so bad. So I was like, yeah, I'll take them. I'll take them. I was going to games all the time,
Yeah.
and but yeah, I ended up playing the highest level I played was off the heels of the Jays World Series.
Yes,
There
sir.
was a boom in Toronto with baseball. There's a league in the U.S. called the Connie Mac American Amateur Baseball Congress. The Connie Mac Baseball League is the 18U, and they expanded. There's a program called the Ontario Blue Jays. It's probably the best program in Canada, right? And
Hmm.
and they they started as the Hamilton Blue Jays. They were kicking butt. They were going south and they were making noise. And everybody's like, well, what the heck is going on up there? So they expanded and we had an Ontario division. So when I was 17 and 18, I played on that travel team. We played like 60, 70 games those
Wow.
2 summers traveling. Our schedule was awesome. Once May came around, we played our Canadian schedule from May until mid June when school ended, and then come mid June to August, we were
Gone.
practice Tuesday, travel Wednesday, doubleheader Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, come back and do it again. And we were in Michigan, Ohio, Illinois, like all over. It was great. So those were really, really good times. And I had, I was decent. I was like 13-3 in the 2 years. Obviously,
Hey.
I had a really good team. I topped out at like 85. I was a control guy. I had a good changeup. I had a
Yeah.
terrible curveball, but I had a little look. I could have gone to Tiffin in Ohio or Bluefield State College in West Virginia. And
Bluefield State College. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I remember that phone call, the recruitment. It was pretty funny. I could barely understand what the guy was saying to me, the coach, but I didn't I ended up turning all that down. I was like, I don't want to do this. My shoulder was getting
Yeah.
there. I ended up having labrum surgery years
Oh,
later.
damn.
Yeah. I was done. By
Yeah.
the time, so I that was it for me. I decided to stay back and I finished high school, and then I'm getting on here 19, and then I
Yeah.
didn't know what I wanted to do. Didn't know what I wanted to do academically. And my mom's like, well, you got to move out. Then you got to go get a job. You got to
Yeah.
learn that stuff. So I was out. I was living with my buddy he was at U of T. I was learning all that stuff, how to pay rent, and that was it. Like kind of in limbo, and back to Samson Downey, who was my high school teammate at Humberside. He came to Humber, and I finally started kicking around the idea of I was choosing between Durham College had a sport management program at the time,
Yeah.
or Humber for radio broadcasting. One of my uncles was working in the radio industry, um, and I was into okay, maybe I could get into sports radio, which is a pipe dream. It's like the hardest thing to do, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but he had connections, so luckily I chose Humber, which the Durham commute was a little bit long.
Okay.
Came to Humber in 2002 for radio broadcasting, and it was fun. And I didn't set foot in athletics that entire year. I didn't know anything about Humber. I didn't know anything about the athletic program or any of
Okay.
the history or any of that, right?
And
But you think about
do
it,
you have a blindfold on or what?
yeah, no
Yeah.
kidding, eh?
Yeah.
It's crazy actually, because even still, a lot of people don't. It's a Toronto thing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of shows in town here, right?
Yep.
So to
Sure.
know what we're doing up here in this part of the city and the success of our athletic teams, I mean, you would think if we were in any other sort of smaller city, we would be
Sure.
that show. We could get into the community, we could sell tickets, we could do all that stuff, right? But
Yeah.
so yeah, I didn't know anything about it. I just was coming to games to watch my buddy Samson. He was on the basketball team, and so um, my another guy that went to Humberside with us. He was in the radio program with me as well. He came down the hall right away, started working in athletics, and he was the voice on the mic. So he succeeded Herbie, who had been a Humber Hawk guy. And
Yeah.
so now Ari ended up he's gone on and done. He did like TFC. He's done Raptors games, fill-ins. Like he's a good sports announcer as well. But he kept telling me all the time, you gotta come down to athletics, whatever. So the next year was the next year, 2003, the fall of 2003, when it was almost the end of September, and the basketball team didn't have a team manager. And so Samson said to me, got to come down, meet Doug. I said, I don't even know what a team manager was. Like, what are you talking about? So
Yeah. Yeah.
he walked me down right over there across the room here, put me into Doug's office, and Doug Fox, the legendary athletic director from Humber, he looks at me, he says, so you want to be the team manager? And I said, I don't know. What is he? He said, you're hired. No problem. I said, okay. And
Doug's like, this guy's got no idea what he's in for.
No
Yeah, yeah,
idea.
yeah.
No idea. That was the Doug, obviously love him to death. Now he ended Doug becomes he is one of my biggest influences in my life.
Sure.
He's an incredible mentor. And so that yeah, that we're at the fall of '03, and I'm thrust into the team is already made. I'm like behind. We're 4 weeks in, and
Yeah.
they've already been practicing. They've got exhibition games, and I'm thrust right into it. Mike Cates is the head coach. Daryl Glenn's the assistant. Andrew Vallejo, assistant coach, and yeah, it was an incredible experience. I was lucky. I mean, I was a little bit older. I was a mature student at that
Hmm.
time, and so student team managers 20 years ago. I think I remember one of the first practices. I remember one of the players, he threw his laundry at me, right? And I just right back at him. I was like, never, ever again.
Yeah.
It's like you don't do that. And then all the room was,
Yeah. Like,
oh, the guys are
yeah,
like,
yeah,
okay, okay, James,
yeah.
okay, like, um,
You're not
but
18 and a
that
half. Yeah.
nah, right?
And some of those Humber dudes are grown men too, right? So they just think like, Kate's could recruit, you know what I mean? Like he
yeah,
did
yeah,
this
yeah,
thing. And so some of
yeah,
those guys coming from certain places and you're like, I got to create this boundary quick or else
yes,
I'm going to be a doormat, you know?
yeah,
So yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
I was gonna stick up for myself. So
yeah.
yeah, it was great to I got to see that ends up being Mike's last season.
Hmm.
But I'm so thankful that I got to have that experience watching him coach, and now still 20 years later, also another person that I've had an incredible friendship with and relationship with, and he's done a whole bunch of stuff for me in the last 20 years as well. So um, then
You must have been good.
I
And he's
think
not
the
going to, you're not going
OCD
to
like
say it, but I mean, like, hey, that's his last year. And for him to be like a reference or a mentor to you still means like you knew what you're doing because when you think about if you reverse roles, if you're him and you suck, you're just adding more work for him. You know what I
yeah,
mean? But if you're
yeah,
good and you can kind of just keep a lot of things off his plate, probably pretty grateful for that. Like it's an important
yeah.
role, right? The Johnny Lees of the
Oh,
world, like these people
love
are
Johnny Lee.
they're vital. That's the guy right there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
right. So
Yeah,
you won't say it. I will. I mean, if you're going to be under Mike Cates, who's the absolute legend for 1 year, and you
yeah.
guys still have a relationship, I mean, period, says it, right?
Oh, and it says a lot. I think it says a lot about him too, right? He is
Sure.
able, his recognition in people, his willingness to take chances and things like that, and
And
get
so
a lot of good out of people.
I'm curious, you get this role. What's your approach being someone who grew up in sport, all variety of sports, but also sort of like I'm not going to be walked on. Like, are you a question guy? Are you a learn on the fly guy? Are you a find someone else so I don't bother this guy so I can figure it out? Like,
All
how
of
did
that.
you?
That's yeah, all of
Mhm.
that. And I think,
And where does that come from?
yeah, I
Where'd you
don't
learn
know. I'm
that?
thinking back to, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of intersections of life and experience and influences I think
Absolutely.
that go into that. There's going back to, I always knew that I would get into coaching. I always want initially growing up, I was like, I think I want to be a teacher or I want to be a guidance counselor. I just found myself in those roles on teams where I was supporting teammates. I was an ear for them. I was able to
Hmm.
say the right thing to get them focused and get them back into places. Like, and I was mindful of that. I have, there's a picture of me like that grade 11 Oakwood team. Like I came off the bench. I was a bit player, whatever, but we're in like the city finals against Eastern, and it's like during a timeout, and like I have a clipboard. I'm standing behind coach. I'm like statting something while I'm on the bench for the coaches, and like
Hmm.
just doing things. I've always done things like that. That travel baseball team that I played on, we had like we used to play really good high level teams, like good American teams,
Sure.
and teams from Brooklyn and teams from Puerto Rico would come up, and we were playing in a tournament in Welland, which is down the road from Toronto. There was a single A Pirates facility that used to be there, pretty good Welland Stadium, and for some reason that they don't remember why, but our coaches decided to protest the game and not show up, but we were all there, and the guys, all 20 of us are there, and they're like, no, let's play, like let's go fucking win this game.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they all turned to me and they said, DePoe, you're coaching. They used to my name is DePoe, but my nickname ended up being Home Depot, and all this stuff.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
Depot,
Yeah.
you're coaching, and that to like now we're leading up to this interview. I started thinking
Yeah.
about this stuff, and I'm thinking about how it was pretty cool for them to like turn to me and say like my group of peers at 18 years old, they're like, you're the guy we want you to coach us today. Which now in my age of 45 and thinking about all all the different sporting things I've been in and seeing, how great being around such great coaches and things like that, such an integral part of the team dynamic. So I felt like getting that trust from those guys at
Yeah,
that
man.
time, I had a lot of confidence. So like I just always had confidence in myself, trying to fill gaps, glue things together, make sure things are working, make sure things are going optimally. So even as a young guy, OCD helps with that because then I had systems and I had like, a lot of things that I was able to implement. Doug was great. Like Doug Fox was so good. He just was such a smart and his demeanor and his dynamic with all of us here at Humber, right down to the student staff was he was so supportive. So, he put me in that position, but then he guided me. I was, able to my relationship with foster my relationship with Mike, and Mike was awesome. He taught me so many things. So yeah, I just went in and I just knew that I was gonna be a part of the team. I wasn't gonna let those, that incident with the
Yeah.
laundry. Like you're not gonna throw your stuff on me. I'm with you. I'm
Mhm.
here with you. I'm one of your teammates. You're gonna
Mhm.
support me. I'm gonna support you. Like, that's always been my mentality. So yeah, I guess it's pretty cool that
I love that. Love that story.
Mike, yeah, that
Yeah.
he was willing to do that for me, and then we
But timing's everything too, right? Like if you're a year
man,
later, and can't recall who the coach was but just sort of, it's just
yeah,
so weird how things fall in line
hmm
like that, right? And it's like
yeah,
might have been a totally different experience, and you're like,
yep,
I'm out, you know?
yep,
So yeah, and then what a Mike Cates catalog or Rolodex can open to you, right?
yes,
And
yeah,
if you do a good job and work hard, your world goes right.
yep,
So it's
yep.
pretty interesting.
Yeah, no, like if I had decided to go to school earlier, if I decided to go to Durham for sport management, right? And so
Yeah.
coming here and meeting Doug, like it's just those are like that's a significant moment in my life. It's a life altering, direction changing moment, and I get through. Now I don't get through the radio program, unfortunately. I didn't like it.
Yep.
But this is gonna come up later on in the interview, I think. But I end up flunking out. I'm kind of in limbo. I got a 58. Pass was a 60 in one class, and it was one of the key classes though. So I get booted from the program, and I'm trying to figure out what to do. And so Doug sits with me, and after I worked a year and a half here in athletics, still as the team manager, but then I start working at the front desk, like the customer service desk, as the students. We hire all the students here,
Hmm.
and Doug really does a great job of mentoring me and investing in me, and he's helped. I'm shadowing him, running our tournaments and running events and all this stuff. And he says, go in our rec and leisure program. It's not sport management, but it's pretty much the same. That's what it was called. So I switch into that, still the team manager. So it's Daryl Glenn who takes over. He's now at UPI. He's the head coach at UPI. So Daryl takes over from Mike, and we have AJ Sharma on staff, who ends up he's done a great job with our women's program the last 10 years. Sherwin Ben, who went on to be an assistant at TMU, I'm pretty sure. So we've just always been at Humber. Obviously, the success of the program, we've been able to attract a lot of good people,
For sure.
despite all our coaching positions being part time. So um, we're 0405, I'm still a student team manager, and Chris Chang, who's now our U17 head coach and University of Windsor head coach, is the other student team manager with me. And like I end up standing in his wedding too, right? Like so he and I, there's another branch of like the basketball tree that's formulating here, from Kate's to Daryl to all of us. And we have a great we have a fun season that year. So like now we've got a veteran team. 0405, we win Ontario. I think we go into nationals at Nate as a 2 seed, and we're confident, we're good. We have a really good team. We've got like 11 guys in their fourth year. Like we're
Yep.
loaded up. We have JR Bailey, Coming off he was a little out of shape after being a UVic, but
Hmm.
adding a guy like that in the OCAA, we were a really good team, and we beat Malaspina in the quarters. We were down 16 at half, and we won by 16. We went 49-17 in the second half in the quarters. Like it was just like wake up, like.
Yeah.
But they were really good. They had Jason Hubbs, I think he was an
Hubsy,
all Canadian. Hubbs, he was awesome, man. He was an all Canadian. We had to shut him down.
you're so
Um,
OG. You called it Malaspina. I love it. That
yeah,
made me feel
man.
good, man.
There
So
you
yeah, that
go.
made me
Yeah.
that felt good. That felt good.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's part of my man. You got to say things the right way, the way they were.
for sure.
We end up playing GMAC in the semis, and they have Valpreda and Steele.
Oh,
And
Valpreda.
oh man, he came back from CIS back
Yeah.
for his fourth year. So we're like toe to toe with them in the national semi,
Mm.
and we had like Jason Walcott. He went to University of Buffalo, came back. Like we were really good too. They were really good. They had like this 6'10" guy, Jeff Stork, who came off the bench, killed us. Had like a double off the bench, was getting on the glass, and Alex Steele was just getting in the paint and whatever. But we shot
This is like
six for
15 years ago, ladies and gentlemen.
dude. This
Listen
is
to this
like
guy.
20.
Listen to the brain. Listen to the brain.
we
He's
we
still
went
pulling out like double doubles, and yeah, this man
uh,
knows.
we went 6 for 16 from the free throw line, and we lost by 4.
Oh,
And I remember, and we were, that night after you lose the national semi, there was a couple drinks that night.
yep.
And I remember Samson, he's looking at me, and he was on the floor, and he said he was like behind our one guy who he had a tough day. I think he was 2 for 9, but he's like, I could see his legs were a little wobbly when he was at the free throw line. Um, Unfortunately. So, but just one of my fun Humber stories. So then that night, because of the CCAA format, we had to go
Oh,
play
it's
like
the
at 10
worst.
a.m. Right?
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
guess who we're playing? We're playing Centennial, who we've
Who
played 6 times already that year,
and they
and
lost first round, right? And they're
they
coming,
lost first
yeah,
round, and they're coming off a win, and
back.
we're
Yeah.
coming off a heartbreaking national semi loss, and we're playing Centennial, who we've
Yeah.
played 6. We're 6-0 against them, but always good games and always tough opponent, right? And they had us in the OCAA final, and their star player popped his shoulder out in the second half, and we end up kind of pulling it off.
Hmm.
So Shane Denny looks at me after what he's like, "We're not losing tomorrow. We're not
Yeah.
losing tomorrow."
Yeah.
We come out at 10 a.m. We are terrible, right?
Yeah.
Like, but
Yeah.
we're up 26-24 with it was like 4:25 left in the half, and then Shane hits 6 threes in the next 4 minutes, and we're
What?
up 8. He blacks out,
Yeah.
completely blacks out, and one increasingly more ridiculous than the next. The last one being him, and they were coming down in transition, and he's cuts behind Samson to the foot, and Samson does a behind the back pass, and he catches it on the run and just puts it in, like hits it. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. We go in the half up 20, and we beat Centennial, and guess who we play in the bronze? Malaspina,
Malaspina. It's
and
the
they beat
worst.
it,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
beat us. But yeah, that was a fun one. That was a really good season. So we had Daryl on staff, and we come back the next year with 11 freshmen, and Shane was back for his fourth year, so he was the captain. And we had an awesome year. We win OCs again. We beat Sheridan in the final. Sheridan's hosting nationals. Again, we lose them, but we play Champlain, like stacked, loaded with like 7 D1 guys that eventually go right, and we
Yeah.
we lose by 2 in the quarters, and then we lose by 1 to that. We come back around and play them again in the bronze, and we lose to them in the bronze. That was the year Mount St. Vincent upset Fraser Valley, the 8 over the
Oh
one
yeah.
seed with
Yeah.
Jamie
Yeah.
Vaughn and all those guys, and like
Yep.
great Kyle Graves, and like they were really good. And Mount St.
Yep.
Vincent went in and just Rick Plato knows what he's doing, right? So
Yep.
that was a really good nationals. Momo beat Sheridan in the final. Sheridan was up 18 at half in their own gym. I'm mentioning that here,
And
maybe,
lost.
and
Yeah.
they lost. Tough one. And then I graduate, and I have so my buddy Samson. He finished 0405. He ended up being, he was a starting point guard. He was co-captain. He was my backcourt mate in high school.
Hmm.
He goes to Denmark to play like Division 2. He just wanted to go have fun in Europe, play a little
Yep.
basketball, whatever. So my grad trip, I have this big trip planned. I've mapped it all out. I'm going to Europe after graduating college, whatever.
Yep.
And I start in Denmark, and not even a week in, I get an email from Kate's, and he says the Raptors are looking for an intern in their basketball operations department. So Mike Cates was friends with Jim Kelly, who was a legendary scout. He was director of the scouting personnel for the Raps at the time or whatever, and they needed somebody. And this is like you're talking 06, 07. This is like
Mm.
super archaic database and all that stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
I do a phone interview from Denmark with Maurizio Gherardini, and I end up getting the internship. So
Figure
I
out
gotta
what time of the day
gotta
was that for you? You're like, I'll
yeah,
do it
well, it was like
whenever.
6 hours ahead or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll
yeah,
do it
yeah,
whenever I'm over in
yeah,
Denmark, like on a
yeah,
landline, like
yeah,
calling back to Canada, right? Like,
yeah.
so I do. I get the internship, and I come home, cut my grad trip short. I'm like, I still have it. I had somewhere in a box. I remember I kept it. I had my Euro Rail pass. I had a ticket to like a soccer game. They went unused, like all this stuff, right? And I was like, man, when am I ever going to see these places? A little bit I know, right? That
Yeah, right.
I was going to end up, it was all going to work out. But yeah, I come home and Doug, Doug hires me on a part time contract to. I was basically, like you said, jack of all trades. I was grinding, right? I
Hmm.
was the evening and weekend event guy, like working on the weekends, doing split shifts and all that nonsense, but still then team manager with the basketball team. But now Daryl has me as an assistant, and we were hiring new student team managers, so I'm starting to mentor them. And then I'm trying to start implementing even within our department here. Like, I felt that it's a valuable role. I've seen it work in our basketball environment. I want to start taking some students, and so I end up designing a varsity manager's manual, and I start training them and start trying to mentor managers from the other teams and all that type of stuff. So just trying to make us better here as a department. And I think that's helped. We've had
Love that.
the last 15 years in sports in Canada, obviously tons of growth and tons of
Yeah,
like with analytics and video and support staff and all these things. So like I was
yeah,
on it, I was advocating for myself, but at the same time, I think I had good support where, our staff saw the value in these types of roles. And Doug, again, like just he just got it right. He's like, yeah,
yeah,
I want us to have a delivery of our varsity program that continues to grow, and how can we keep getting better. And so I was working in the facility. I was an assistant coach with the men's basketball team. We had a rough couple of years, but then Daryl, we got it together, and then we won three provincials in a row, 9, 10, 11, but still not getting, of course, by that time I understood what Humber was. And I'm like, man, we got it. You start feeling like you don't win the big one,
yeah.
you're
That's
not
the
having any,
standard.
you're not having any success. And so we had a really good team in 2009, and we went to it was at UNBC. Oof, a long trip, but Mount Royal was amazing that year. They had Jordan Hone and Cam Dodd and a bunch of big dudes, and we ended up on that side of it because Mount St. Vincent had done well for a couple of years.
Hmm.
CCAA gave them the 1 seed, and they had Mount Royal 2 and us 3, so we ended up playing Mount Royal in the semi.
Hmm.
Mount St. Vincent actually lost to UMBC in the 1-8 game, so it was a little bit of
Was that
payback.
Mike Rainbow
Yeah.
coaching? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and so we ended that, and they made like UMBC was smart. They made that investment because it was the next year that they won.
Right.
And we lose by 4 to an Alberta team in the national semifinal, and they beat Champlain in the final easily. And everybody, oh yeah, the final should have been you guys. Oh, thanks, yeah, no problem.
Thanks. Yeah,
But
yeah.
but yeah, and then it was the next year though, that we thought that was going to be the year. 09-10, we get J.R. Bailey back coming off his OUA first team All-Star with Guelph. He's doing a journalism post grad. He's got 1 year of eligibility left. Obviously, way older by that time. He was in shape. Our team was amazing. Probably the best Humber team that I've seen on paper in 20 years. And
Hmm.
went out and did it too. We went 17-1. We had one loss on the road to Fanshawe had Adam Jesperson, and he came back from D1 and went to play at Fan. Like they were loaded. We went there and lost to them Was it Jesperson? No, maybe it wasn't. Anyways, they were really, really good. Manny Campbell, who ended up winning nationals with Mohawk in 2012, and like we played them in the provincial final in their gym and beat them. And we were really, really loaded. And coming off the experience from the year before, and then we unfortunately had a little incident that night with partying, and so we went to nationals without our championship MVP, without the best defensive player in the country, and without our another starter, and still got bronze. But our mistake was we didn't play a game. We needed CCAA has that long break,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And when your team has a disciplinary issue, it felt even longer. We should have played a game, and we didn't. We went right into that national quarterfinal against Sate
Mm.
at Sate with Emmanuel Schiek, who they brought in to for the second semester to like, and they beat us. And that was a tough. We were just playing guys that hadn't played in from the back end of the rotation that hadn't played in months. But you know what? Credit to that group. We actually recover, make it to the bronze, win the bronze without all those other guys. But that's
Yep.
when UNBC wins that championship. They were really. It would have been such an awesome matchup to watch.
Mm.
We were pretty good defensive. We had good perimeter defenders to watch our guys chase. Well, Jose Arujo, who was the
Yep.
shooter on that team, he had played for us. He started his CCAA career with us. He's from Brampton, so
No
we
way.
were happy for him, but it was a little bit bittersweet watching him win because we were like, yeah, he should have been over here with us. But
Yeah.
yeah, he that one hurt Daryl a little bit as he really put a lot of time in recruiting Jose when he originally came to Humber.
Mm.
But yeah, we continued on, but then that was that summer 2010. That's when my Canada basketball journey started. So Daryl
How
again.
does that door open?
So it was Daryl Glenn who
Hmm.
he had. I think he did the 2008 FISU. I think
Okay.
Chris O'Rourke was the head. I think it was O'Rourke was the head coach with him, and maybe Beaucamp, and Daryl was an assistant, and so he had gotten in the mix with Canada basketball. So he was the one who actually recommended me to Matt York, who was the coordinator of basketball operations at Canada basketball at the time.
Hmm.
Um, I obviously had all the Humber stuff on my resume. I had the 0607 Raptors internship, excuse me, on my resume. Where I'll go back to that 0607, a couple key people like that was eye opening, right? Being in I'm like working in the NBA, I'm working in professional sports and behind the scenes and seeing how things are happening in the office. And that's the year they brought Colangelo in. So that was quite something
Oh
when
wow.
he came in and he sort of tried to, he started changing everything, changing the offices, trying to change the culture of the organization, right? But I was really lucky to work so closely with Courtney Charles, who's now the GM of the Raptors 905. I just saw him here last week. He Raptors 905 did a camp here, so like touching base with him again. You know that in the game, like when you're in basketball and you have all these touch points with people, like you always see them at these intervals down the road. So it was really cool to see him. And so I had all that under my belt, and so I did the interview with Matt York, and he asked me to come. Obviously, we didn't qualify, or we were going to the Worlds that year in
Mm.
Turkey, and Canada Basketball was sending a development team to Europe for a series of games, and they were doing a training camp at Kerr Hall. And so I just went to volunteer at the training camp. And again, one of these moments of like luck meeting preparation meeting
Yeah.
circumstance and all that stuff, whatever the saying is. I'm butchering it, but um, Courtney Charles was actually supposed to be the team manager for this development team. The NBA goes on strike. He's no longer, as an employee of an NBA team, allowed to be with this team that has some NCAA guys and some
Ah.
pros. And like a day, 2 days before the trip, they turned to me and they're like, "Can you go?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" So I come to Humber and I say to Doug, I was just about to start working full time. No, I was still part time. I come to Doug and I say, "Doug, they've asked me to go," and he's, "Yeah, you're going. Like, we'll be fine here. You go."
Mm.
And so Leo Routins was the head coach. Greg Francis, assistant coach, which is incredible for me coming back around. Grade 8 me. I had known, like, I knew Greg, and I was like many hoop heads, we watched the Fairfield Carolina game, right? Like, that
Yeah.
was like etched in my brain.
Yeah.
And so I got to, and Greg knew my brothers, and and here I am. Uh, all of a sudden, I'm thrust into this
Love it.
6 games in 8 days in
Oh
three
yeah.
countries,
Here we go. Three
and
countries,
I'm
did you
like,
say? You
six
say three?
games in 3 countries. And I've never done this. I've never
Yeah.
done this before, right? Like,
Yeah.
and so I've got, Matt York was awesome. You think I'm OCD, like you end up getting in a position like Matt York is amazing. He went on to work for Athletics Canada after, and now he works for like a sports travel agency. And but yeah, he had everything ready for me. And this is 2010 though. It's like a binder this thick.
Yeah.
My backpack is overweight 100%. And I've got like flash drives and cash and all this stuff, and we have not nearly as many team bags as we have now, right? But um, yeah, 6 games in 8 days in 3 countries. So we land in London. We get on the bus. The bus goes in the or whatever it's called. It goes on the train that goes underwater to Belgium to connect to the like the bus
Yeah.
actually goes on, and then you go under, and then we get off and we end up in Belgium, and that was where we played our first 2 exhibition games. But I still will not, I can, it's like vivid in my mind and etched in my body. That's the first time I was lined up like with 18 other dudes, and we are there representing Canada, and the national anthem is playing, and I'm like goosebumps every
Mhm.
time. And I still remember that exact moment, that exact feeling that I had when I was standing there in Ostend, Belgium, for that game. And it was an awesome. We had such an awesome group of guys. Oh, I got all these teams that they're all up here in my office. But
Yeah.
Kyle Landry, Rens Brempong, Jordan Baker,
Shout out to Big
Troy.
Rands.
Yeah, man. Kelly Olynyk, baby Kelly.
Yeah.
You got Javon Shepard, Denham, DeVoe Joseph, Brady Heslip, Casey Archibald,
Yes,
Mark.
Archie.
Yeah, man. Mark Trazzolini,
Oh, Big Mark.
and Ryan Wright. So that
Yeah.
was the
Oh
group.
yeah,
We
Ryan Wright.
we
Yeah.
went over we went over to Europe
Mm-hmm.
to play. And I think Canada basketball had like billed it like that, like, yeah, Steve Nash is coming. People were so pissed, man, when they came to the games that we had to play. Um, yeah, we played the 2 games in Belgium. We doubled back to London, and we played the 2 games in London, and then we went over to Amsterdam and played 2 games in Amsterdam. And it was a whirlwind. And I remember Leo was awesome, man. He was, Leo was such a he's such a lovable guy, and he cared so much about Canada and cared about the guys and cared about basketball so much. He did such a good job of teaching me. He was so helpful. We get off the plane, and I was like, first thing I'm supposed to do is start, you know, inventorying the bags. And Leo's like, no, I got this. He's like, you go find the bus. I'm like, no, but Matt told me to do this. He's like, don't worry, I got it. I got it. And it was just that way.
Mm-hmm.
We had to be that way. We had no staff, right? You had
Yeah.
limited resources. So it's always been an all in thing, players carrying bags and all that type of stuff. So after that 6 games in 8 days in 3 countries, we went to the Canary Islands for a week. So it was pretty awesome.
It's not bad.
But, but we all, we this is a
Almost didn't make it.
crazy story. I don't know if you've heard this story before. We almost lost Rands.
No.
We almost lost Rands. So you have those moments, right, of like when guys are gonna care about each other, and so
Yeah.
we get to the Canaries, and like everybody's like, okay, we're gonna go to the beach. And the water was crazy,
Yeah.
and he got pulled out. He almost drowned. And
No way.
Leo and one of the other guys went out and put him on. Leo put him on his back and brought him in.
What?
It was crazy. And this is like, we got our entire group there at the
Mm-hmm.
shore, screaming and trying to cheer them and get them in. And then you get them in, and you have this like holy fuck moment, right? Like
Yeah.
we almost lost Rand. He got sucked out into the ocean, and Leo went to save him. I have a picture. I have a picture of all of us. Somebody took a photo of us after, and like you just see a couple of guys, and Rand's included. He's like, they're just like, you know, looking at the camera like
Yeah. What just
yeah,
happened?
it was
Yeah.
pretty crazy. So those are that's obviously something I remember from that
Wow.
trip. But we end up having we had a good week in the Canaries. We played Spain, and that's like 2010 version of Spain.
Eesh.
Yeah, it was bad.
Y-
It was like 91-50 or whatever
Yeah,
it was,
that's
and it was just like um but yeah, and then so I did you know, I started full time at Humber. Then finally in October I got a full time job after all
mhm.
the grind, which was again it was my Doug's hilarious. It was the same thing as when I got hired for team manager. He called me in his office. There's a couple of our other staff in there. He sit down, and he all smile at me. He goes, "This is your interview. You're hired," and that was it. So I got full time, and I've been here ever since in a number of different roles. But and then stayed on again. Became varsity coordinator. He put me, he had me sort of oversee a few different programs to see how we can bring them up. Our women's basketball program had struggled for a couple of years, and that's when we made the choice to bring in AJ, and then AJ Sharma, who he had been with our men's team, and he did 1 year at Ryerson with Roy, and then we hired him to be our head coach of the women's basketball team, and he did such a great job of building up that program, and it culminated in two national championships. The first one being is the it's actually a crazy stat, like no Ontario team had won, no Ontario women's team had won nationals in a team sport on
Wow.
soccer, volleyball, basketball. So we were the first in 2016 when our women's basketball team won nationals on a three at the buzzer.
Wow.
Um, but yeah, it was, and they won again 2 years later. Um, but yeah, so Doug invested in me again, like as a full time person, and had me, sort of trying to bring up our programs. And again, I've always I can take from all experiences, and I think him allowing me to go to the Canada basketball stuff,
Mm,
he saw that I could take things from there and start bringing that back
for sure.
into our program from a high performance standpoint too. So um, yeah, Leo said good things about me. Matt York asked me to come back. 2011, I did another exhibition tour in Europe, which was a lot of fun. That was a really good group of guys.
Did you even pause to
Um,
think like, I don't know if I want to, or was it an instant
no, no,
yes, like
no,
I'm
no,
all
no.
in? Yeah.
This was all like I mean, after my grad trip had been cut short, and I'm
Yep.
like, yeah, I'm going back to Europe. I want to
I
get
need to
all
go.
these
Yeah. Yeah.
countries
Yeah.
off
Yeah.
my list, right? I had all these plans, and I was
Somebody
like,
owes me, man.
now, now it's being paid for. Like I got all
Yeah.
expenses paid. Like, um, no, there was never a hesitation at all. Like it is such a again like the stuff I said at the beginning about it just about how special it is to represent your country. And
Mhm.
I know I'm not between the lines, but I know that like I'm there on behalf of Canada, and I want to represent Canadians, and want to and we're obviously we're very well received, and I take pride in that too,
Mhm.
which ended up being part of in 2012 I end up going to U17 Worlds. So Matt York, the basketball ops guy, he says, we're starting to branch out. That was only the second. I think the first one was 2010. The second U17 Worlds. He's like, I need somebody that I know I can send and I can rely on. Like you're going to go to the technical meeting. You're going to be able to manage the whole group and the travel and all that stuff. So um, I did that. That was Dave DeVero and Barnaby and Steph Barry, and then and another full circle moment. Mike Cates is the mentor coach. So here, Mike Cates and I are in Lithuania together after having met, 9 years earlier at Humber, and different dynamic, different relationship
Cool.
now, and incredible. Like to travel with him and just enjoy that experience, and see his mentorship of Dave continue, because him and
Mhm.
DeVero had such a good relationship, right? So
Yeah.
again, I'm seeing mentorship in front of me playing out and seeing the value of all that too. So it's really really cool. Um, but then knowing that now I can pay that forward to 2013, I'm assigned to the U19s.
Mhm.
So I have Roy, Scotty, Jamie McNeely, Jesse Young is the apprentice coach. Like just awesome. Like
Yeah.
talk
Yeah.
about, and we went to Prague. was a good trip. It was
Yeah.
a really good trip. But again, like it's just an incredible staff, incredible group of players, and now I'm what? I'm like, how old was I? I don't even know. I'm like in my 30s and realizing now, I'm a big part of what we were doing with these guys, and they made it easy. But our Canadian guys are like they're the best.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
they our guys have always been like they're just such good guys, and in a good way. Yeah, they're gonna play hard. They play between the lines. They want to win, but they're like so respectful off the floor. And part of that was I took pride in that. I was gonna try to help them. I was gonna mentor them. I was gonna try to teach them how we got to do things, how we move, how you get be on time, and all those respectful type of things. So
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that part of being with the U19s, and Roy was great at just the whole macro culture of our whole group.
Hmm.
And Roy was also, our training camps were crazy. He was like bringing in all these people. He was really good at bringing in a lot of people from the community here in Toronto, and getting them involved in the Canada basketball program. Um, but yeah, that 2013, we were in Prague. I think it was we had Tyler. Yeah, we had Tyler Ennis and Trey Lyles, and like Trey averaged 20 and 10. That was our first. That was our first introduction to Trey because he was almost pretty much American, right? And like he
Yeah.
had grown up
Yeah.
in Ohio, and he
Yeah.
was starting to make a name for himself. So Canada Basketball did a good job of getting him to decide to come play for us. And Tyler was awesome. He led the tournament in scoring. He was like we were good, but we I think we ended up, and we had X who was good, and Chris Eggy. It was a good team, but we ran into the US in the quarters.
Yeah.
And I think we still ended up finishing fifth or sixth. I think we won the fifth place game. Um, but yeah, the Prague trip was good. We had lots of fun.
I
It
love that
was
you're
good
just
to
looking
like,
on your wall. I love that you're just looking on your wall at all the
yeah,
faces, man.
what's
That's
helping
cool.
me. I'm starting to. It's a lot. There's a lot of guys, a lot of players, and yeah, going into 20. So and building my friendship with Scotty was also awesome. Like we were like minded. We hit it off. We had a good time together, and so it was good to have those couple summers with him. We had to room together in like Humber residence and all that nonsense. And um, in
That's a different
2014,
podcast.
yeah, that's a different podcast for sure. And 2014, we had U18 Americas,
Hmm.
and it was at Colorado Springs at the U.S. Olympic Training Center. So again, another cool experience for me to be in a campus venue environment. Like I mean, this is it's a U.S. Olympic Training Center. It is a full
Sure.
scale. Like you got
Big time.
everything there, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, big time. Except they
I
put
know what
us
you're
in
doing in your downtime. You're like wandering
the
around, right? Yeah.
yeah, they put us in the barracks though.
Of course they
And we
did.
were like three to a room.
Yeah.
And I remember Scotty he felt sick, man. We had to like share showers with like the other U18 teams, and like some of these guys were nasty, right? And Scotty's like,
Yeah.
I'm not showering in there. They ended up going to they ended up getting working their way into getting passes into the fitness center, and then they would just go shower in there.
There. Yeah.
Um, but one of the funniest things is, I don't know if I should tell this story. Whatever. It's international warfare, man. Like
Yeah.
this is 2014, and so in the U.S. Olympic Training Center, they have like computer terminals, generic for common use or whatever.
Yeah.
This is divine intervention, if you ask me. There's like 10 of them there, and I sit down at one to check my email, type in gmail.com, hit enter. Well, somebody else's inbox loads. They didn't sign out properly.
Right.
Well, and I see like this is also, I don't know if this counts as my special talent. One of my buddies said I should say this is my special talent. He's like grammar and spelling mistakes are just like words that pop out at you. You just see things. Well, I see playbook. It's like pop out in my face of who we were playing the next day. It was happened to be that team. I'm like, well,
N-
what are the chances that I sat down here this second with all of these terminals and I happen to sit at this one? Message Scotty. I said, hey, I have this team's playbook. He goes, yeah. He was at dinner. He's like, I'm coming. So that was a funny moment.
that
And
is
things that,
wild.
yes, it was pretty
Hey,
funny.
if you're, yeah, like you say, international war, if you're not bright enough to log out of the email, that's on you. That doesn't matter if you're at the Hyatt for the weekend with your girl
Yeah,
or whatever. Like if
yeah, man.
you are not logging out, this is not like when our first emails. This is not our OG
No.
email account of like Aaron Mitchell at what or some random name, right? Like
Yeah,
this,
like
we've been around for a long time. You should know better. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
So it's funny that you say that because yesterday I was messaging with Scotty on the weekend and I said, should I tell that story? I kind of, I don't feel great about it. Like my moral barometer or whatever. But he's like, well, let me tell you this. He's like, just the other day, Kobe Carl told me that I left my playbook on the lobby computer in Erie, Pennsylvania a couple years ago. And I said, okay, so karma did come back around on us. So I'm like, okay, I'm good,
Yeah.
whatever. What
Yeah.
goes around comes around. But yeah, we're talking about if you're an idiot and you don't
Yeah.
know how to well, Scotty, you're an idiot, buddy. You forgot to log out of your computer. He just told me that yesterday. So
I want to go
yeah,
back to something you said a bit ago.
sure.
What a unique experience for you. Um, how Canada came into your life, but just sort of like that moment I think is ingrained because you had no time to process.
No.
Right? It was like you had 40 something hours
Yeah.
and then you find yourself in Belgium and you're
Yep.
like
Yep.
not many people, no matter what their role is, there's time to plan. I got to pack. I got to do this. I got to, say goodbye or go out with the
Yeah.
fellas before. It's
Yeah.
like, no, I'm literally on a plane in a
Yep.
day and a half here.
Yep.
And then you have that moment of like the maple leaf on the chest. Like that's about as unique as it gets. And that's probably why it's stuck. And maybe even more, not that it means more or less to other people, but probably why it also means so much to you because that is your first
Yeah.
time. It's like, and then you get just a great group and in doing what you do, you're developing teams. And so being part of a team and when you can have a fun, special group just makes it that much better. Like if that first experience kind of is
Yeah.
not great, who knows, right?
That's right. I probably, yeah, it might have influenced. Yeah, if the guys didn't respond to me, or if I wasn't treated well, or if if I had a bad experience with the coaching staff or something, it might have soured me, and I'm like, I'm not going to invest my time in this. But
Hmm.
no, it certainly helped. I probably still, I would have gone back for more abuse if it meant traveling again and representing Canada or whatever. I would have done it. I wanted it was lucky that like I said, we've just I don't think I've ever had a bad experience or like a bad interaction with any of our guys, even age group, teenagers sometimes, but I
Hmm.
I never have.
Hmm.
It's just been such a great time. Like every summer has its own unique little every you're in sports, every
Yeah.
team is different, every season is different, right? Like
Yeah.
and you take the good stuff rises to the top with all of that. So
Yeah.
yeah, we had such a good time, and then that's why like going back again, 2015. I miss my buddies still talk about it to this day. They like it was like the greatest stag ever that I missed.
Yeah.
I think it was in it was 2014 or 2015.
Hmm.
2014, I did also do I started helping with the senior men again. Um, and we did a trip in Europe, and we had the last night we were in Spain, and I was leaving to come home. I was missing the last part of the trip because I was standing in Chris Cheng's wedding. There's a couple years there where I think Triana was pissed at me. He was blaming me for what happened that night. The next day, a couple people didn't make the practice. He's like, "Fucking DePoe, where's DePoe? This is all his fault." And but I was like, if I could make it from A Coruña to Madrid and do a Bernabeu stadium tour and then get myself upgraded to first class and make it home. I'm like, those guys should have made it to practice the next day. I'm like, I don't care what happened last night.
That's
Like,
facts. Yep.
um,
I think for you too, when you think about your time with the national team, like you saw the baby grow to a man. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like
yeah,
you saw the guys that were willing to grind, the Ranses, the Archies, those guys
yeah,
to making it to the Olympics. Like how cool is
yeah,
that? All the years and time that you've put in, like you've been a part of that growth, right?
yeah. It's been really special to now it like reflecting on it now. You're framing it that way, like to see those OGs, right? See those guys coming off the dark years,
Yep.
and they were still showing up. So those are the guys that are really putting into the program what it means to when you answer the call, when you're asked to
Hmm.
play, you come play and feel pride in that. And then that being with again, it's down to like what Rowan and Mike Meeks have been able to do, and then with Michelle O'Keefe and Glenn Grunwald and all these people that have been the high level impact and trying to get people invested in the sport, but you're putting that into then we're putting it into U17 or we're putting it into U19. So yeah, having that front row seat. Like I grew up with these guys. Like how much it meant for me to be there at the World Cup last year and see
Mhm.
like Kelly, like I said, Kelly was on my I called him baby Kelly. It was my first trip in 2010. And to see stand there and see him and Dwight embrace, right? That
Mhm.
brotherhood, that connection that they have, that they finally got us to the Olympics. You know, Shea was with me in Valdivia, Chile as a little scrawny 18-year-old, and you could see what was about to come,
Yeah.
but he was there. RJ was there. RJ's been RJ's been unbelievable to watch him grow up and like, as this from a 17-year-old in 2017 leading us to the historic gold medal and like
That was
the
wild.
way he's played the last 2 summers and like how his everyday work and his everyday purpose. Like I'm so proud of them as men, like how they represent themselves and their families and how they represent Canada. They've all grown up to be like incredible guys. Nikhil's an incredible guy. He's just he's a father now, and I've seeing him that way. So yeah, and that goes back to like I give all that credit to Jermaine Anderson. Still to this day, I have a relation. Brampton Honey Badgers they train in our gym here in the summer, so I have that relationship with Rock too. Like I love Rock, and he's a guy that you want him to be around. You want him to keep coming around, and I think a lot of our alumni are supporting the program, and they have supported the program, and now it's just there's so many benefits that are coming from that now, and this
Mhm.
current group of guys they really they embrace it. They recognize it. They're such good guys. Like people ask me, and that's my response. I'm like, they're just wonderful human beings.
Yeah.
Dylan Brooks, like I couldn't love a guy any more than I love that guy. Like
Yeah.
when he's with you, he is with you. He's the nicest person. He's the kindest, most caring human being. Like I've known him since 2015 when he was our leader on that team and when we went to Greece in that World Championship, right? And like
Mhm.
see his maturity and his growth and how he's really busting his butt to get his game together and get a good contract and all that stuff and like leave that Memphis noise behind him, right? Like
Yeah.
and how he plays for us. He like they all care about each other so much. Like Phil and Tommy Scrub showing up every time, doing the right thing every time. Like just having all those types of guys on our team. Like one of my favorite memories from we when we went to when they started this Windows process. So I've skipped over a couple years here, but it's still one of my
Okay.
favorite pictures. We went to when we finally qualified for the 2019 World Cup. We had this insane window. We were at Venezuela, at Brazil. Like this is I can't remember if it was I think it was a November window. And this is tough. You guys are coming from Europe, right? So we had to train. We trained in Orlando, and at that time the US was still allowed to fly into Caracas, so we had to go from Orlando to Miami and then Miami to Caracas. It should have been a short day. I think our flight was we flew in the morning, the little hop from Orlando to Miami, and then our flight was supposed to be at 11 to Caracas. And this group was like it's like Aaron Best, Deshaun Pierre, Kyle Landry, Joel Anthony, just a case of Keen, like guys, the guys that are the warriors of our windows, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And have always have been these last 7 years. And we the flight gets delayed to 1, and then it gets delayed to 4. And so we had set up this extra security and hired like these ex-military guys to take care of our team, and we were going in and playing the game and getting out because it
Mm.
was very dangerous at the time. And as the flight kept getting moved, the Venezuelans that were sharing the flight with us started to get really squirrely because the sun was going down. We were going to land in darkness, and so I guess the stretch of highway from the airport into downtown is one of the most dangerous in the world. And they were worried about their loved ones coming to pick them up at night. So meanwhile, I'm dealing with like you've got questions of what's happening, what's going on with the flight. So I'm running around the airport. I'm going to the desk trying to figure out, if we get delayed to like tomorrow, we're supposed to play the next day.
Yeah.
When can we get out? Can I get us hotel rooms tonight? All of that stuff
Yeah.
keeps getting postponed. I end up at the front of the customer service line, and then I look and like it's filled in behind me. Everybody's freaking out, and then the another time change goes up to 7 p.m. and it was chaos. People were fainting, screaming, like
Yeah.
people just got their stuff and walked out. They're like, I'm not getting on this plane. It's too
Yeah.
dangerous. And I'm like, well, what are we going to do? I'm calling
Yeah.
back. I'm calling back to Toronto. We had a new ops guy, David Grunman at the time. Like, what do we do? And so we started trying to figure out getting hotel rooms. And anyways, we end up boarding at 11:30 p.m., departing at 1 a.m., land at about 4 or 5. So now the sun was coming up. So we were okay. We had our escort, but these guys, this is what they dealt with. They were in the airport all day. We grind through this night. We go into Caracas. We get to the hotel at 9. I wake everybody up at 1, 2 o'clock. We're supposed to play at 6. Wake everybody up at 2. We go to the game, battle. We lose by like 8. Tough. And Venezuela was tough. It was in
Sure.
Venezuela, and then we get back on the bus and we go to the airport and we get the heck out of Dodge and we go to Sao Paulo. So now we only need one more win to qualify. So we go to Sao Paulo and we're playing like Brazil's. They got Barbosa, they got Verjao, like they were legit. We're playing
Mm-hmm.
them in the Corinthians, which is a famous club. Is soccer club is more famous, but in Brazil, it's like a full it's a social club, right? So you have a full complex of everything that the community comes to. And so you've got the whole neighborhood is for that club. And we're playing them in this arena. And after what we had gone through, it wasn't so we played the Venezuela game, and I think we had 2 days until the Brazil game. So we had a travel day, practice day, and then we played. We come out and we just deal with them, just destroy them. And I
Wow.
can't even think, like I'm getting goosebumps again because I'm just thinking about the guys. I have a photo, Connor Morgan, all these. I have a photo of after the game after we won, and that was the win that qualified us. And the guys are all, in a
Yeah.
posing for the camera and doing this scream, and like you just see this joy on their faces of that was the win. And I couldn't think of a group that I would want to experience that more than those guys. It was unbelievable to just go through that and then go into Brazil and just deal with them in their country. It was awesome, man. That was a good one. And so,
That's good stuff. I love it.
yeah.
I love it.
So, yeah, going back like 2017. Sorry, I don't know if you had a question. If I cut you off.
No, not at
Like,
all. Yeah.
thinking back to that, those U19 kids that we were able to do that. So we again, every team has its own arc, and
Mm-hmm.
we had in 2016. I got a good 2016 story too. So we have U18 Americas is down in Valdivia, Chile, which is like as far, almost as far south as you can
Yeah.
get in South America. It's way
Yeah.
down there. So you have to, it's direct from Toronto to Santiago, and then you connect another couple hour flight. And we go down there and we have a really good team. We make to the final against the USA. USA is like loaded. It's like Markel Fultz and Trey Young and Mo Bamba and Jared Allen and Michael Porter Jr. and like they're just like stacked, destroying everybody, run and jump press, steal, dunk, 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 3-3-3, like crazy. But we hold our own against them in the final. I don't know, you might remember this game. We were only down like 4 with 2 minutes left, but Shea got a tweak. He didn't even play the whole second half. Abu Kijab like goes off in that game. The Keel goes for like 30. Awesome game. And so we hold our own. So we know coming into 2017, we're like, we're there. We got a shot at this. But then like a bunch of them end up not being able to play because of their NCAA commitments. And so that team that ends up going and winning the World Cup is it's like obviously a talented team. But Lindell got hurt at the World Cup, and he wasn't able to play. And we knew the draw and we knew how the bracket would set up, but we end up we played Spain in our second group game and we end up losing. And Spain, obviously as good as they are, and it's really really tough opponent, and they hold us accountable and they expose a lot of stuff. So we're 1-1 in the group. The next day is the off day. coaches are deciding like what we should do, if we should practice, but we take the day off totally. We go to the pyramids. We have a great day. We have a really, the guys have a really good experience. And I think, we had a couple guys who had already done their first year in D1, like Anthony Longpre and Amadou Bamba. They were the older guys. They were good at like, and Lindell too. They were good at like kind of, keeping the group together. And obviously RJ was uber talented, right?
Hmm.
Um, and just Danilo, good role player, Grant Shepard, Nate Darling, Jordan Henry. Like, it was a good team. And yeah, we were able to like when you're within an environment of the group, and then they just sort of like there's like this shift of just like how they lock into what they're
Hmm.
about to do, and they didn't care that we were on. They were like, "Oh, we're on the U.S. side now. Okay, like no problem." And they locked into it that week. It was awesome, and you get to that side of the bracket, and we end up like France actually France was tough in the quarters and get over that hump. We're playing Team USA in the semis the next day on the Saturday, and like our guys are like locked, seeing red, like all day. USA guys are by the pool,
Yeah.
tanning, all this stuff. Think they're gonna,
Yep.
and I was so locked in, and like I brought the wrong uniforms, which is one of my most significant mistakes I guess I've ever made. So FIBA is super strict with like the uniform colors and who the home team is and who the away team is,
Sure.
and it depends on the schedule. If you're listed first, you're the home team and you were light. If you're listed second, well, I was in North America brain, and I was like, well, we're a 2 seed and they're a 1 seed, so we're the lower seed. We're gonna be red and they're gonna be white. So I brought our reds. We show up, and this was in Cairo. It was super secure. It was like a good 30 minutes from the hotel to the arena. So once we were there, we were there. I couldn't go back. So I
Hmm.
remember like the FIBA commissioner bringing me and the USA ops guy together, and like I think he thought that I was like doing some gamesmanship,
Right.
trying to make them change their uniform and mess up their warm up. And so he's digging in. He's like, "We're not going to change." And I'm like, "Well, I can't go back. We have no time."
Hmm.
So we end up, FIBA was so mad, but like our most significant age group, one of the most significant age group wins in Canada basketball history, we're in red and they're in blue, and FIBA hated it because the color didn't look good on TV, and that was all my fault. But whatever, I was locked in, man. I was like, we're wearing red today. Like, uh,
The things
but yeah,
people
that
do
team
not know,
was,
hey?
yeah, I know it's silly stuff, but yeah, that team is special, obviously, to be able to do that, and how they locked
No
in that
doubt.
week, and they really, really came together and played for each other like such good kids, and wanted to represent us well. And it's such a whirlwind too. We played the next day against Italy, and Italy, it was anticlimactic after being the U.S. and they had beat Spain in like double overtime, and they hit like a miracle shot at the buzzer to send it to overtime, and then they win. They I think they were resigned to
Yeah.
silver. They were happy, so it was kind of an anticlimactic game. And then by the time it ends, and by the time you get through all the ceremony, and I, get back to the hotel past midnight, nothing's open, can't eat, can't celebrate. We were going to the airport at like 6 a.m., so we were like rushed off. Didn't really get to like do anything together. But
Yeah.
obviously the reception at the airport was really, really nice. And then Canada Basketball did some stuff after that where they honored those guys and brought them back together because they deserved it for sure. So
Hmm.
it was
That's
really,
dope.
really cool. And yeah, so all of these like then from after that, that's when I moved up to the senior team role and
Yeah.
started doing just the senior team. And now our age group guys have an incredible manager, Scott Boogie from he works at Seneca College. Even I'll give him a shout out too. I don't mind, um, but yeah, all in this time, I'm still an assistant coach with Humber. I can't forget the Humber stuff because after all these years, finally in 2015, I finally got my national championship with Humber, which was also incredible and almost did not happen type of moment. Where we had worked so hard here, and I was helping with recruiting and helping continue to build our program and extra managers and extra support staff and trying to build our thing up. And so yeah, we almost didn't even make it to nationals. In the provincial quarterfinal, we were losing by 2, we're losing by 1. We turn it over. We have to foul. There's like 17 seconds left. Lambton College is at the line. The guy makes the first to go up 2, misses the second. So we gotta go live. It's FIBA. There's no timeout. We come down and we're like, everybody's scared. They're like, And so we end up shooting, and we don't even run a play. We chuck it up. The buzzer about the sound. Our star player, Tyrone Dixon, who is an incredible player, he's our all-time leading rebounder, shot blocker, whatever. He's at the foul line and he reads it and he sees it's going to be an air ball and he just rolls down the lane, jumps up in the air, and catches it out of there and lays it in at the buzzer to send us to overtime. And we end up pulling it out in overtime. But then this is like a moment where we were almost done before we even got going. So we win the semi. We actually lose to Mohawk in the final, and so we knew we were both going because Mohawk ended up hosting. So again, another moment where that locked those guys in. I was able to see a team of guys that they were not going to lose that week. We played Langara in the quarters. It was an awesome game. They were the defending national champs, but they didn't have Brody Gregg, obviously, who was
Yep.
incredible the year before. But we beat them in the quarters, and then we beat Holland College in the semi with DJ Wright, and then we played VIU in the final. Unbelievable game, and won. So I finally got my national championship with Humber after all those years. And then I was an assistant coach for a couple more years. But then in 2017-18, I went to school in England, lived in England for a year to get my degree. My who is now my wife, she also came with me. Um, and then we came back pregnant, and I haven't coached with Humber since. But yeah, I'm obviously here. I'm still supporting. I still love our basketball program. We'll always support our program, and still connected with our alumni. And just now, I get my basketball fix with the national team, obviously. So
Yeah, no doubt. No
yeah.
doubt. So if I were to ask you before we do a bunch of fun questions here, like what does the next 5 years look like for you? Or do you not think like that? Are you a day-to-day guy?
Um, no, it's both on a couple different levels, but no, I mean, hopefully my boss doesn't watch it. I want to be a director
Hmm.
somewhere if it's here. Obviously, my heart is here. I've invested so much of my life here.
Yeah.
Um, no, no, but I'm things are great here, and we're continuing to try to get better in everything we do within our department, and lots of exciting stuff happening with across the campus. It's a big school, right? So we were lucky to have lots of resources.
I was gonna
We're
say,
gonna.
so you're on North Campus, so they're two
I'm on
separate
the North
yeah.
Campus. Yeah,
So
yeah.
like how far is the other campus?
The other campus is just about 20 minutes down at
Okay.
Lakeshore, down the road.
That's
We
huge
just
though. Like
opened
for a
yeah,
college, like
yeah.
yeah.
We just opened a new gym there,
Okay.
which Canada Basketball will reap the benefits of with our relationship with them.
How do we feel
Which
about
again
that?
is
The old historic gym is there's a lot
yeah,
lot of blood, sweat, and tears in that
there's a lot
place.
of blood, sweat, and tears. This
Yeah.
one too. So we are going to build at the North Campus here as well.
Okay.
We're kind of in those final phases of building a new facility here. It's much needed,
Hmm.
and hopefully the relationship with Canada Basketball continues. It's a long-standing relationship, right? Which is again Doug's support of me, but also instilling in me that we can be a place that helps with amateur sport. We have a relationship with volleyball and basket and badminton as well, that we try to support those organizations. We know that
Hmm.
dollars need to be stretched in Canada, so those are the things that I'm locked into here at Humber. And the national team, I'm going to show up every single time. We're already talking about I got a window in Saskatoon in November for the
Let's
AmeriCup.
go.
I'll be in Saskatoon in November,
Dress
and
warm.
I think we're in Mexico and Puerto Rico or something in February. Which again, who's complaining about that, right? A little quick trip in February, 10 days down to one of those places. So, no, I'm gonna keep. I'll keep showing up for the national team as long as they're willing to have me. And, yeah, make sure I keep having good relationships with our coaches and don't piss anybody off. And
No
yeah, I
doubt.
would love to be. I want to be in LA. Probably want to be in Brisbane too if I can. We'll see. We'll see.
We need a West Coast training camp one year, man.
Yeah, we
Canada
do.
basketball. Get yourselves out here, man. We'll take care of you. We'll take care of you.
We gotta talk to somebody about these flight prices in Canada. It's
It's
it's more
wild, right?
expensive to it's more expensive to
The f-
get anywhere domestically than it is to go. We could go to Houston and have a cheaper training camp.
right?
Yeah,
It's crazy, man.
yeah.
All right, let's do it. I mean, amazing stories. Love it.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Like I could do this all day, as you could too. You got a
Yeah.
cottage to get to, and you got to put your feet
Oh,
up
I
and have a few
appreciate
beers.
that.
So yeah.
Appreciate that.
Um, okay, let's do it. I like to go all over the place. You've
Sure.
touched on so many people in this episode. Is there
Yeah.
someone out there that you feel like you haven't given enough shine to yet, but who have been some of the most important people in your life to this point? And you talked about it a little bit in terms of the journey as little chapters in your life, right? And people come and go or play different roles. But is there someone out there that you're thinking of that maybe hasn't been mentioned?
Well, sir, I think first and foremost, my mom is just my sports journey. Like this is a typical answer, but like she's paying for stuff. She's driving me to the U.S. every weekend. She's sending me. She's getting sponsors for my uniform. My mom was incredibly supportive, but also
Hmm.
she was really good with me from like mental performance standpoint when I was pitching as a pitcher. She's just the right amount of talking to me about what focus and what to think about when I would be pitching, and
Mm,
she never played. She wasn't, it just was more about she's a very accomplished business person. So
okay.
just had the right, amount of advice and my
Love
father
that.
too. For my dad is, he's still to this day, he's very, he fights for people. He fights for what he believes is right. He still attends protests and he goes to a lot of different things. And he was a former teacher. He speaks up. Uh, so I think that there's a lot of things that I look to in him where he
Hmm.
instilled in me, to stick up for people, to do right by people, and try to help people. And then my wife and my son for sure. My being becoming a dad definitely
I
does a
was gonna
lot of
say
things.
if you
And
didn't go there, I was gonna nudge you. I was gonna hit
nah,
pause and
no,
be
no,
like,
no.
"Hey, don't
There,
forget the wifey."
yeah, no, no, no. But my
Yeah.
wife is a force of nature, man.
Hmm.
She played 5 years here at Humber. She won a national championship. She's tough as
Sheesh.
nails, man. She was a 3 and D B. She's one of the best defenders I've ever seen. Relentless, and it's carried into she's killing it right now in her professional life. She's an unbelievable mom. Um, yeah, no, she's just incredible every day. You know, she played, then she came to England with me. We both got our degrees, came back pregnant, had our son, and then came back to play. She didn't want to leave her fifth year on the table.
Get
So
out.
she came back. So I took parental leave. So my son and I were the groupies for the women's basketball team that year. It was
Yeah.
awesome. It was wicked, man. I took parental leave and we were
That's
just
awesome.
letting she went to school to play her fifth year. And then, I think it was incredible for her. Captain and mom of the team, right? And all
Hmm.
those things
Hmm.
for her. And yeah, she just her compete level and she's just awesome. She was so fun to watch, and still to this day, she kills it. And then, yeah, my son, it's just a joy, right? And you asked about dropping everything and going on these trips. That changes, right? That changed for me
Yeah,
in 2019. That 2019 World Cup. Um, I like I said, I've never had a bad experience. That one was tough.
for sure.
That we were on the other side of the world, Australia, China. That one felt that one felt really, really far, and that
Hmm.
was more, it was hard on me and it was hard on her. Which again, shout out to all of our staff and their families and the support that we get for doing this stuff. Like all of us, ops and support staff, we've been doing it for years, and our families, support us. But yeah, like now my son, he feels it when I'm gone. Yeah, when he was
Yeah.
an infant, but when I have to explain to him, he knows what 5 weeks means. He knows what 45 days is, right? So
Hmm.
then that gets me because now it's starting to affect him. But he was good. He was really happy when I got home this year.
Hmm.
And you know what? One other person that I didn't even talk about in this entire journey. I gotta try to be short here. I know we're wrapping up, but
No, do your
he's
thing.
gonna be.
It's your story.
You know what? No, no. Yeah, it might come up in one of your other questions here, but Melvin Ejim. I mean, I'm very close to the family.
Mm,
So Ryan Ejim played here at Humber before he went to York and then on to Carleton.
hmm.
He walked in my office and I told him to go to Sheridan. I was like, I think we're too loaded at your spot. and I said he still reminds me to this day because he's so stubborn and he's like basically
Yeah,
he walked out of here and he was like fuck that guy
the
I'm
guy.
coming
Yeah.
and he ended up making our team like and then and then Kenny was a freshman and he started on our national championship team. And I was super close with him and tried to take care of him for a number of years. He had some great years. He left and he was gonna go to Ryerson, but then he ended up coming back to Humber. He had like one of the best individual seasons we've ever had here at Humber, and then of course unfortunately passed when he was
Mhm.
playing pro overseas. And then as a backdrop of all of that, like I've been traveling with Melvin for 10 years, man. Love that
Crazy.
guy so much. Kenny's jersey's hanging up in my office here.
Hmm.
I got my national championship name on the wall. But yeah, I would be. I got to mention Melvin. The guy is. I was so proud of him when he made the team this summer. He deserved it so much to be able to call himself an Olympian. So it's incredible. So he's another guy that I want to shout out for sure.
I've never had the pleasure, but in all conversations, I've never heard anyone even get close to a bad word about that guy. And
Yeah.
huge
Well,
salute and props to that guy.
I'm gonna get him on then for you. I'm gonna bug him to get him on your
Yes,
pod
sir.
here.
Yes, there we go. Now we're talking.
Yes.
Uh, okay, so we talked very early on in the episode. Great answers, by the way. Thank you for that. Aux cord. So what concerts? Now it can be multiple. Artists can be dead or alive. Maybe you and wifey, you and a couple of the boys, best seat in the house. Doesn't matter. Who are we going to see?
So, yeah, man. Me, who I need to see and who I
Yeah.
regret is
Okay.
Prince.
Oh,
I
good
should have gone
call.
to see Prince, and like the guy is such a legend, and I've heard so many. Like AJ has told me, like he was such a good artist. That show is like a show.
Performance.
He's
Yeah.
performing. He's performing everything. He's playing multiple instruments. Like my one of my favorite clips is what he's at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and there's a whole bunch of legends on the stage. They're playing guitar. My guitar gently weeps, and it's like I think it's like Jeff Beck and Stevie Ray Vaughan, and I forget. There's a whole bunch of guitars, but Prince destroys it, and they just let him. And it's like people don't know how good of a guitarist he is, and how it was such a good art. If you get the chance, search that one. It's worth the 9 minutes or whatever it is. His guitar solo is ridiculous. So yeah, I think I would go see Prince. With the boys, I don't know. I'd do something fun with them and go to like a country concert with them, whatever. They're more into it than me, but I've always been like, I just want to hang out with my friends and see them have a
Sure.
good time. So, but yeah, for me, the number would be Prince. For wifey, I just bought Leon Bridges tickets to go see Leon
Yes.
Bridges with wifey and I. It's hard to get a date these days, so I hit her up. I'm like, would you go to this with me? She's like, yeah. I was like, done, signed
You got
on. Yeah,
smart. You got approval first. Oh
yeah, she's
boy.
gonna be at. Well, yeah, I was gonna go. I was either going by myself or I was buying two
Yeah.
tickets. So I yeah, we're gonna go. We're gonna have a date night sometime in October. Finally.
Nice. Yeah, he's been through here a couple times. I've missed him
Yeah,
both
he's
times,
awesome.
unfortunately. Yeah, he's
Yeah,
really good.
yeah.
Amazing. Books or movies?
I do both. I'm
Yeah.
now I'm older. I'm getting more into books.
Okay. Is there a
But
book
yeah,
is there a book in the back of your brain that you'd like to recommend to the listeners?
well, I think this the well, one of the most. It's just recency bias, but and also because I'm a dad. But I read Range by David Epstein. He used to write for Sports Illustrated, and he wrote a few years ago. He wrote a book called The Sports Gene, and I think a lot of it has actually been sort of like I think he actually has changed his tune on it. But Range is just about it's just about not specializing, which I think is
Mm,
a big trend, right? And so for parents, it's a good read to realize that the I think the large percentage of high performers had a range of things going on in their lives. They didn't specialize until they became teenagers.
mhm,
Keep it
mhm.
fun, keep switching it up. Your kid will find their way. You don't need to be crazy and have them burn out and start hating sports when they're younger. But range is really cool because he goes into he just studies a lot of high performers from around the world, and there's a lot of celebrity names in there, like what Roger Federer did his whole life until he actually decided he wanted to lock in into tennis. He's one of the notables in there, so it's a pretty cool book.
Nice. I just put it in my Amazon inbox.
There you
There we
go.
go.
So Libby
Mm,
Libby app. the
Oh,
Libby app for reading. There's an app called Libby,
okay.
and if you have a local library card, you
Yeah.
just log in, you enter your library card information, and
Lets you
you
know if it's
borrow.
there.
No, you just no, you borrow. You can. I mean, if you're like a page turner
Yeah.
and you need a physical book, fine. But if you're good on screens,
Yeah.
and you can get audiobooks for it's all free. It's just like borrowing a book from the library, and you just open it in the app and watch and read the book or listen to the audiobook with your library card. It's all free.
Now this has been a good episode, but
There you go.
drop the mic. All right, Libby app. There you go. Looking at
I'll
it.
give a
Go.
shout out to Dr.
Yeah.
John Philpott, the national team doctor. He's the one who told me about the Libby app.
There you go.
Yeah,
Amazing.
yeah, man.
You're at the cabin, cottage, getting a little snacky, but we're gonna go unhealthy. So what are we grabbing for a bag of chips? Now
Oh,
is this like a cottage where like you got to stop an hour before because there's nothing else, or is there like a
no,
little
no.
you can dip out to the gas station and
Yeah,
get
we've
some?
got
Yeah,
a
yeah.
little. Yeah, we do.
Okay,
We've got a little something there. We've got a little
okay.
something there. But I've been. It's boring. I've been salt and vinegar my whole life. But Lay's salt and vinegar. But I just started eating more Ruffles salt and vinegar. It's a little bit different. But I can't do the big bags anymore because like
Yeah.
it
It's
take you take
yeah.
a beating on that, right?
The bag or you or both.
Both, both.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's
It's
not good. And then
impossible.
yeah. No, it's it's not good for you. Then you can't eat. Then you can't enjoy anything else you're having once you have. If you do the whole big bag, you're done.
Yeah. Especially with the salt and vinegar too. It's like it's
No,
so
your mouth is
tangy. The roof of your
yeah,
mouth is a
yeah. You're
disaster.
done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's growth and maturation. Like
Yes.
that says a lot
Yes.
right there. Home Depot.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do this. Now you take this one how you want. Maybe you're in your grade 8 prime or whatever, after that 6 for
Yeah.
6 moment.
Yeah.
Or maybe you're like in the manager coach role, but you can pick 4 dudes, you can pick 5 women, whatever. Open run.
Oh
Let's
shoot.
bring you out west. Let's bring you to Kits Beach.
Nice.
So it's call your own, right? Play to
This is
21,
like
threes and twos.
totally open, and I it's not this is the Canadian version. This is totally open.
It's your world. We're living. This is your episode.
Holy.
You could do 2 teams if you
This
want.
is when you should have paused it and said you better pick your wife if she was 3 and D and played 5 years. No, I'm gonna go. Okay, well, so I'm on the run, man. I stink. So I'd be the two. I'd have to just set screens, use my fouls, and run. Oh yeah, if there's I can't foul out. I'm good. I can make a
Yeah.
couple corner threes.
And you can
So I'll
still
take.
defend your buddies on the court too without having to worry about
Yeah,
suspension. Yeah.
we play zone exactly.
Yeah.
I'll take Shea for sure. But because and by the way, I'll say something about him.
How good is that
Eh,
guy? Oof.
he's really good, and so I've said this to a number of people. 2014 this was the tail end of Steve's career, right? And we had
Mhm.
a trip, and Phil Handy was on that trip. He was an assistant with us, and Steve was working. I think Steve was still trying to get back in shape, the back surgeries and all that stuff, but he had like one season left to play. And
Mhm.
I remember Phil putting Steve through workouts,
Okay.
before our practices, and I
Yeah.
remember seeing that for the like you're seeing that type of
Yes.
workout happen, and then you
Yes.
see like, and I know it wasn't just because of his injury, like he had always worked out like this probably his most of his life to become what he became,
Mhm.
and that was the best I've ever seen until I saw Shay. Shay's unbelievable. And
Wow.
this is the guy who's doing his work in the morning before our practice, right? He's calling me at 7 a.m. from Hamilton saying, "Yo, DePoe, I'm coming to OVO. Just meet me over there. Guys are, whatever." Like
Mhm.
that's who he is,
Mhm.
He's unbelievable. So yes, I will take Shay at the one because he's the best.
I love how he just seems so low key too. Like I just love
He's
everything about him, man. He's
yeah.
awesome. Yeah.
Again, like our guys they're just good dudes, man.
Yeah.
They're such good guys.
I was doing a lot of chirping in the game in Vegas. I was there.
You were there?
Yeah, Bartlett got us some tickets, and so
Nice.
I was doing a lot of 80 million chants every time they were
Yes.
booing Dylan. I was like,
Good.
"F these people, man." Yeah, I
Good,
was losing
man.
my
They're
mind.
just
Yeah,
haters for no reason, man. Like,
right.
how crazy was that game? You know what?
Yeah,
I get so I didn't even look around. And
Hmm.
there was one time out when I look and Obama's aura got me, right? He got me good
Oh,
because I'm like, he's right across from me. I'm sitting on the
yeah.
bench, and then I finally saw him, and I was like, oh, like it was one
Right.
of those, and because I tried to lock in, I get locked in into the
Of
game. I just
course.
try to do my job, right? And
Yeah.
I knew that if my eyes went up, I'd be like,
Yeah.
holy crap, there were so many people there. I need to go back and rewatch. I haven't rewatched any of our games. I usually do.
Yeah.
Find the right time, obviously, to rewatch them, but
Yeah.
um,
I said this. People asked me how it was and stuff, and I was like, I didn't realize either. But like, I had friends telling me, yeah, we're in the lower bowl, but like kind of in the corner, 20th row, and like Nate McMillan's two over. Like, this is the best seat they
yeah,
could get
yeah,
Nate McMillan. Like, that's how many
yeah.
people were
Yeah,
there,
man.
Like,
He was crazy apparently.
yeah. And they did those all-time teams and everything. It
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
was, yeah,
I allowed myself at the Olympics. I allowed myself. I sing the national anthem as loud as I can every time. By the
yeah,
way, and
yeah.
then once, always at the end of each game, I let myself. I wanted to take it in. Like the Canadian fans that were there, like it was
Hmm.
incredible to see flags and all that stuff being waved in the crowd. But I get emotional, so if I did it, I can't be like welling up when we're in the middle of a timeout or whatever. So.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so no, it was that was pretty cool. So
Love
who
it.
do I have? I have Shay at the one, me at the two, young me. So then like I'll take Vince. I'll take Vince at the three because like that's pretty dynamic, and obviously my Raptor love and going to games and fun. Like I was at all those playoff games back then. I was at all the playoff games in 2019. Like I'm a Raptors guy for sure. And I'll
He
take my
put it
guy
on for the
Mel.
city. Okay,
I'll
Mel,
take
Mel
my
to
guy Mel
four.
at the four. I'll take Mel at the four.
Yes.
I'm going small, and
Okay. It
then
is
grade eight.
2024.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're going small, but we'll be fun. And then I'm gonna take my guy Sean. I'm taking 1996 version of Sean Kemp when they made the finals, and he was ridiculous.
How
And
good
he
was
could
that
play the
guy?
five. He could play the five in this type of ball right now, for sure.
Love
We'd be
it.
undersized, but we'd be fun on Kids Beach.
Yeah, no doubt. Good
I could
picks.
just like I just gotta like get by one guy and just throw it up.
Literally,
Yeah.
you're good.
I can't get by anybody. I never was able to.
Uh, okay, so you're obviously like we talked about, a jack of all trades, but do you have a hidden talent that we don't know about it at all?
I had to validate these. I had to ask ahead of time because I know you asked these questions.
Okay,
So I apparently I can sing a little bit. I'm not going to right now. That's just an absolute no. But when I
okay,
start singing, like, and my brother's a musician, and
oh, okay.
he even gives me credit. He says that I'm a better singer than him. But yeah, apparently I can sing a little bit. And then I also, the reason I flunked out of the radio program at Humber, I'm pretty good at impressions, and
Nice.
I can do voices and stuff of just regular everyday people, like the people
Yeah,
I know. I'll do a breakout in, but it all comes from just like impromptu, and so
sure.
that's why I remember when I was in the radio program, I would do something when we were like in the flow of the class, and the teacher would be like, "Yes, yes, now go in there and do it." And I get in the booth and just
Couldn't do it.
froze, terrible. And then the other one of my coworkers today, he said, "Yo, your hidden talent is like you're like the grammar police." He's like, "You just see like I get a piece of paper put in front of me right now, and in like 0.3 seconds, I'll just like point at
Stands out.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know why my brain is messed up, man. I just see stuff like that. It's bad.
Ah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Does your son eat cereal?
Oh yeah, for sure.
What's he crushing?
So I think I mean, the go-to, we're doing like we do Lucky Charms for the most
Yeah,
part, and even for me,
same with my guy.
yeah, yeah,
My
yeah.
guy's Lucky Charms.
Lucky Charms is good to go, but I got to switch it up with him every once in a while, and he groans at me, right? We got to go healthy every once in a while, but you try to go the good, bad, healthy, or whatever, like
Yeah,
like the certain whatever they are,
shreddies with a
puff,
pound of sugar on it.
yeah, 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 yeah. Frosted shreddies,
Yeah,
dad style frosted shreddies.
yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
Good stuff. So it's Lucky Charms for you?
Yeah, yeah, Lucky
Okay,
Charms, I think, has been
fair.
the constant in my life.
All right, who so Melvin's our guy for Hoops Journey. You're gonna plug that? Is there
Man,
anybody else out there who's got
there's
a great
yeah, I
story? I
can
mean, I'm sure you have a
no, I would ask a couple people. I'll say Melvin for sure. Like just an what a
Mhm.
like a basketball family and everything he's done. I'm definitely I would like to speak to him. Have you had Rowan on yet?
I've not had Rowan.
I'll
I'd
try to
love that
bug
Rowan.
Row. I'll bug
Hmm.
Row at the right time. I think Courtney Charles, who, like I said, he's now the GM of the 905. He's worked for MLSC, like going way back to when I interned for him in 06, 07.
Amazing.
Good guy. And another one, I will give a shout to Leo Routens. Have you had Leo on?
Have not had the big man. No.
I'll
I
talk
mean,
to Leo. That's
that's
like
an
his.
O
This would be his bread and butter. Leo's would be. He should be good for this. I'll try
that's
to
the
bug
OG
Leo.
OG OG,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah. He's
yeah,
just even still when if I go to a Raptors game, I'll pop over to the section and go up and see him, and it's just like love and hugs and everything. And actually now I'm so bad. He needs. He's been bugging me for a tracksuit for like years. He tells me XL tall every time, and I never give him one. So bad. Um, sorry, Leo. Um, and Eric Smith. I'll try to
oh
get
yeah,
Eric Smith. He's actually Humber alumni. He's a little bit before me, but he covered the men's basketball team in like 97 or 98 ish when he was a student here. And we've reconnected with him. He's come around a little bit. I think he'd be a great interview, obviously, with everything he's
amazing.
done now and
Yeah,
calling Raptor games and stuff like that. And he's followed basketball in the GTA for a while. I'll see if I can get I named five. If I get
yeah,
one, I'm good, right? So
yeah. Oh,
it'll be
100%.
like my shooting percentage.
Yeah, yeah. It's all right. It's all right. Not your back screen percentage though, or your fights per game or whatever it is, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I'll tell
exactly.
you this though, Scotty, we bust his chops, but he has not failed on an episode yet, and you are another one that came highly recommended, and he's come through with
Thank
a
you.
lot of great recommendations. I'm going to leave it to you to sum up and any last thoughts, ideas, or reflections before we let you go. Wishing you and the Humber Athletics a great year, a great season ahead. Thanks for all your time, effort, and energy towards Team Canada. You can just tell in the stories and the pride, like watching you tell the story when you're looking up, not necessarily at the wall, but all these emotions and feelings going through your brain, you can see it and you can see what it means to you. So on behalf of a hoop head, and someone who's still super involved in the game, thank you for your time. But I'm going to let you just sort of summarize your last thoughts and then you can get on the road.
Uh, it's a lot. Thank you. No, I think it's great that you're doing things like this, and it helps. Helps with a guy like me kind of tracking back and thinking about all these really cool things. And like I said to you at the beginning, this might be healing for me a little bit too, right? With what I just went through. So yeah, no, I care very much. And all cliches aside, like it's just people and relationships and all these incredible experiences that we've had together and traveling together and competing together and wanting to represent and wanting to do well. And I don't, I thanked my parents and I think people like that and my grandfather too. I think about like instilling these values, and I'm just happy that I can have a little part in paying that forward to other people, and I will always do that as much as I can, and keep doing it here at Humber, like no matter what role I'm in, and want to ensure that we people have good experience, and I just want to keep helping people and keep doing that along the way. It's been a crazy ride, like 20, 25 countries. The guy that cut his Euro trip short, I never thought I would end up going to like 25 countries in the last 15 years or whatever it is. So yeah, it's been unbelievable to see the game, how it's played in different parts of the world, and how people interact with it in different parts of the world, and how all these different organizations and federations, promote the sport, and how the different types of passion that can be put towards the game. So yeah, it's overwhelming to think about it sometimes, but I'm very appreciative of all of it and all the people that I've had the pleasure of working with and spending time with and talking hoops.
You got it. And I think they would probably say the same. about you, and so much more to come, which is exciting. You never know what's around the corner. Enjoy that family time this week.
Oh, thank you.
The chaos is just around the corner, but keep in touch, continued success. And thanks for being with us. A great, great episode. Hoop
Thanks,
heads are
man.
going to love this one. Episode
I hope so.
142 with a triple OG. And we'll see you on the next one.